I'm Marie Vigourou.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And this is Rude Eats, a delicious podcast where we sink our teeth into every episode of the show Hannibal.
My friends call me a killer. If you're still hanging around, you spread all of these rumors that I am the guy who did all of these crimes. I thought you wanted me better, someone you wouldn't use. You said he must be a killer, so now when we talk I have anger issues. You said there's no encephalitis. Now we're knee deep in my broken psyche, and you're eating my friend. You're a cannibal now. What me were you feeding to me at your dinner party? You're a cannibal now. All I needed was a friend. Hannibal, you're a cannibal. How? Don't even try to pretend. Hey Hannibal, where's Abigail now? I know it's really Hannibal when you frame me for murder and feed me in the ear. I know it's really Hannibal when you smell my neck right next to that ear. That could have been a real friend that taught me all about who I am. I thought you were a real friend, but honestly you're not. Knee deep in my broken psyche, and you're eating my friend. Hug me where you're fitting to me at our dinner parties. All I needed was a friend. Don't even try to pretend. You thought you were my head and blame it on the fever. You said perfectly up. You wonder why I'm better. Bragging to our friends, you cut me and I did it. I have to tell the truth and I'm born. No, you did it. I hate how that you changed me so much. I question myself. I hate how that you changed me so much. You can go to hell.
And we're back. Folks probably didn't miss us because we've been releasing these week to week, but you and I haven't actually recorded in like a month or something due to life reasons that we're not going to go into here. But it's been a while since we've been able to record this. I'm glad that we're back talking about Hannibal and Will and our boys.
Oh, our boys. Oh my God, our boys are... This is such a horny episode.
It is a
I
very
was not
horny
expecting
episode.
it.
Yeah, like
And
it's
so, yeah, it's very horny.
it's
Our horny boys.
and obviously like this is the first episode that has explicit sex scenes, right? Like we're gonna see some
Right.
some business. Just as before we get into it, I think this is the first time you and I have been on a microphone since we released the video and the song and all that.
It is. Yes,
So
yes.
I just want to thank, we may have done this in the last episode because I think we had people lined up, but I want to thank Banshee Beat for their contribution to all of the music, Anti-Grav mixing for putting all of the music together, blending that with Sally, who was our vocal singer. Thanks to Sally, like everybody came together to do all that stuff, and people helped with the lyrics. Judy, Eleanor, Autumn, with the video, all that stuff was super great. So, and people seemed to really dig it, and it also turned our Discord into like a Chapel Roan server for a little while, which is just worth it.
I was so happy to see that our silly little Hanagram song is making people listen to Chapel.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So good. And because of podcast time, we're already like working on our season 3. Even though we just released the season 2 thing. So yeah, we're having fun.
I know. Well, I mean, when people are going to be listening to this 10 weeks into it, right? So to them, it's like, oh yeah, well, in about 6 weeks, like we're getting a new song.
Yeah,
It makes sense to them.
Yeah. We're very close to the finale, which I think, boy, everybody's just really looking forward to you seeing for the first time. But
It's kind of alarming. I'm not going to lie.
I'll tell you what, I've obviously seen it, so I know what's happening or whatever. When I was putting the video together, I skimmed it, looking for like video clips to use and everything, like stuff to use for the video, and found myself just like, when I do this stuff, like I bring up the video and like I turn the sound off and I turn like some music on and I just skim through, right? Like I don't want to hear the dialogue at all. And I find myself just like listening to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross music while just like watching the end scene by itself. Like I just, because I'm usually like skipping every 5 seconds, and I'm like, I'm just going to stare at this because it's so, like I couldn't pull my eyes off of it. So I can't wait to actually, watch it and then talk about it and then make notes on it and everything. It's gonna be so much fun. So
it's so interesting because like usually when people would say this, I would assume like, oh, one of them must die, right? Like that must be what happens. But I know there's a season 3. And so I'm like, what is it that is happening for that to be like as life-changing as people say it is?
I guess talking about the finale, we should, since we're getting close to it, we should mention that we're going to try to do a live watch with the listeners in our Discord. So if you hit the show notes, go to our there's a link tree in the show notes. Click on that. There's an
by the time this airs, won't it have happened already?
Oh yeah, probably so, because we're 3 weeks away. So
but there's probably a recording of it somewhere.
Yeah, so go look at our YouTube, I guess. Goddamn podcast time. This is just all over the place. Let's get into it. Mary, what episode are we talking about today?
This week we are talking about Hannibal, season 2, episode 10, Naka-Choko. The summary is: Will's willingness to go to dark places strengthens his bond with Hannibal and garners Jack's attention. Hannibal gives Margot advice about her brother's violent nature. I feel like that is a wild thing to say about this episode. But anyway, it was directed by Vincenzo Natali. The story is by Steve Lightfoot and Kai Yu Wu, and the teleplay by Steve Lightfoot, and it originally aired on May 2nd, 2014.
3 days before my 10th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
Fun time.
That's so cool.
Yeah, this is what an episode this is. We talked about like all of the sex stuff. And then also like I think like Will's transformation here is something that is really intense. Like it's
becoming.
His becoming. Yeah, this is his design. And his willingness to be able to, I guess, quote unquote, play with Hannibal like this, and the reflection of that in like the sexual imagery that we see, I think is just really intense. And once again, how in the fuck did this air on NBC? Like, this wasn't like cable. Like, you didn't have to have a subscription to HBO. Yeah. Like, they broadcast this over the airwaves. They just put, like, there's, like, if you think about airwaves and radio waves, like, extending into space forever, like, aliens are going to see this, like, 50,000 light years from now and go, like, what in the fuck is this? Why are the humans sending us this? And then they're going to get real invested, right? And then they're going to start trying to find all of the episodes.
Why are the humans having sex with stags?
I just don't understand. Like, I thought I had a good read on it. Like, we just finished Gossip Girl, and I thought I understood Hannibal. I thought I understood humans, but now they're sending Hannibal, and now I'm just confused again. Like, we need to stay away from this planet, says one alien.
You made a really good point, actually. When we were talking about the theme, you made a really good point that this is when the show kind of drops a lot of, like, what it pretends to be and starts becoming what it really is. Like, the show is becoming just as much as Will is, I think.
I think so, too. Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to lead up to a stellar conclusion, which I can't wait to get to.
So, for the theme of this episode, I looked up, again, like I've been doing, I looked up Naka-Choko on Instagram to try to find, like, ideas and stuff and, like, imagery of the dish. And it is impossible to look up on Instagram without finding a lot of stagman sex, to be honest with you. Like, you cannot find just a regular photo of a dish without seeing the stagman.
Jeez.
So it was kind of interesting to see, like, how Instagram, how Hanagram pilled that tag is on Instagram.
Yeah.
I did find some examples, and it sort of seems like Naka-Choko is a palate cleanser that's often like a citrusy soup. So when I thought of citrus, I thought of sour. Again, like trying to think about what happens in your mouth and your body when you taste citrus. It's that sensation of like sourness that happens on your tongue. So when something is sour, often it means that it has fermented. So I'm thinking about fermentation, hiding away. And then you and I kind of landed on the theme of shame for this episode, right? And that's when you made the really good point that it seems like the show drops all of its shame when it comes to like what it's really about. And I just thought that was so smart. I was like, yes, that is exactly what happens.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time that I feel like it really this show takes off of its human veil, right? Like its human suit, and shows us what it really is. And again, there's like a threesome in this. There's like a make-believe threesome that happens in this episode. And I don't like, I could, because of the way the world is, like, I could see NBC like putting a threesome with 2 women and 1 man on the air, like, especially if they didn't show anything. But this is a pretty intense, 2 dudes, 1 girl situation, which for lack of a better understanding, like I think NBC would be reticent to show. And they just did it. Like, there was no, like, it's still wild to me that they just aired this stuff, and I'm so grateful because it's intense, and it's I tell you, I read this script today because I was curious if there were deleted scenes, and there's one very famous one that we'll talk about when we get there, but there's also just the description of this on the page, where you get to read stuff like, she tries to ignore the pressure of Hannibal's hand between her thighs. And I'm like, what the fuck am I reading right now? Like, how did this turn into AO3? I thought this was the Hannibal script. Like, what am I doing? But I've never, I've never read a script. I don't read scripts often. I've never read a script about like a sex scene like that. So my eyes were opened a little bit. And I'm really curious as an actor, how all 3 people that were involved in this, and Margot, I guess,
and Margot,
like read this and what their thoughts were about all of this, the situation, the back and forth, and everything. I would like, that's probably like my burning question for if I ever meet Mads Mikkelsen in person is like, what did you think when this was going on?
The thing is, when you hear Mads and Hugh talking about the relationship between Hannibal and Will, they talk about it as a love story. Like, it's very like, and again, like, I mean, coming from the supernatural fandom, that's so refreshing to hear, to hear people like acknowledging that what people are seeing is really there.
That's the reason that Hannibal conventions are so much cheaper, is because the convention holders don't have to buy all those fence posts for everybody to sit on like they do with the supernatural guys. Those fence posts are expensive. So your ticket price is higher. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. Jeremy, you can say a lot of this stuff and that's great, but like, I've gotten into so much trouble for saying it. So I'm just going to let you say them, because apparently people get you into less trouble than they do me. So that's
I don't know what it is.
But I agree with you. I wonder what it is.
I think I know what it is.
But I wonder.
I wonder exactly. Please continue, though. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. By the way, folks, I'm very sorry if you're hearing me cough. I have the plague. I basically have like a cold or the flu or whatever it is that's going around, and so I'm gonna need to be coughing a little bit. So when we talk about shame, interestingly, this word comes from Old English. And thinking, and the meaning was like a painful feeling of guilt or disgrace, right? But the one thing that I really wanted to talk about is that in Greek, there's a difference between shame in the bad sense, like that idea of disgrace or dishonor, but then there's also shame in the quote unquote good sense, so like modesty, bashfulness, and whatnot, right? Because in Middle English, actually, if you, and this is related also to the Latin, but like the word shame is directly related to some of like, to private parts, to nakedness, to genitals, right? And so like, I just find it interesting that in this episode about sex, like we're talking about shame as well, just because like sexuality is such a shameful, or can be such a shameful topic, such a taboo topic. And so I guess we're gonna talk about sex today.
we're gonna talk a lot about it, and also I think there's I think in general, so these are mass generalizations, so if I'm speaking out of turn here, please let me know, audience, as well as Mary. But I think in general, kids grow up with shame about their bodies and about sex and things like that. So it's really difficult for people to communicate what they want and what they actually desire, because they've probably seen people make jokes about something that they like, or see it in the media that it's portrayed as bad or whatever. So these urges that people have, like it comes bundled with a bunch of guilt and shame. And this episode feels like some of that's finally slipping away. Like, if you can find a partner that you can, share something with, and they're, into it with you, or willing to accommodate, or they just don't shame you about it, right? Like they just don't come down on you like that, and all of a sudden you realize like, oh, this is not a shameful thing. That feels like what it's happening in some cases in this episode, especially to Will, where he seems to be letting go, so to speak. And being very blunt. But also like, I think we can talk about this with Margot and Alana and Hannibal as well, where everybody seems to have had a level of modesty or shyness or regard for propriety, and then they're putting that aside. And we're doing that with sexually, we're doing that with killing, we're doing that with, just about everything in the episode. Even Freddie Lowndes, like, harassing people into trying to believe what Will was saying about Hannibal, I think is also something like that applies to this theme. So it's a good one.
Well, so that's interesting that Freddie Lowndes basically, she was never ashamed. And she says something about that, right? Like she doesn't feel shame, right?
Yeah, she didn't grow up feeling shame. Yeah, she said that in maybe the last episode, I think.
Yeah, something like that. I was like, oh my God. Well, I'm very excited. Are we ready to move into the beat by beat?
Let's do it. Start out a little bit before the end of the last episode, where Will is coming back from outside from chasing his dog. He turns off the light, as we saw, but we're seeing this from different angles, so we know this is like not repeat footage, right? And he's got his gun, and very shortly we see this incredible slow-mo shot of Randall in his entire animal suit jumping through the huge window in Will Graham's living room. And Will is kind of knocked down almost by the force of this. And as he stands up and he looks, he sees the stag. Number one, I think we see the stag actually come through. But he sees the stag and immediately throws his gun to the side. And as he does so, the stag turns into the stag man. And then it's time for them to fight. And the stag man, like, I tried to get a clip of this so much for the video because I loved it, but like very quickly slams him against the wall with his antlers. And then Will pushes them to the ground and just starts slamming fists into his face. And as he does so, he sees the stagman's face turn to Hannibal, who has this kind of gruesome smile, and then back to the stagman, and then back to Hannibal. Like he's chasing back and back again until finally Will grabs the antlers and twists it and breaks his neck. And as he rises, we see on the floor, it's not been Hannibal. Of course, it was Randall this entire time. So he has literally killed Randall in self-defense, I would argue, but he did it.
Yes, in self-defense, sure. I think that there was a level of pleasure that was taken there that probably wouldn't jive with the defense, I think. But I don't know. Before we move any further, though, I know that, we're probably like 2 minutes into this episode, but I already have thoughts because I think that this is laying some groundwork for what we're going to see for the rest of the episode when it comes to like will and shame and like secret desires and all that fun stuff. Because like here, he basically satisfied a basic instinct, which is killing in this case, by imagining Hannibal as the person that he's killing. And later, we're basically going to be able to replace the word killing with a whole nother word, and it's still going to work just as well, right? Like, but I just want to highlight that he's imagining Hannibal as the object of his desire when it comes to satisfying that desire to kill, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He's, I mean, this is very specifically going to get brought up in the aftermath, right? Like where Hannibal and him are going to talk about this. And this is something that, going back to that shame and like kind of letting people peek through the curtains. We'll talk about when we get there, but like him sharing that, like he enjoyed this, and then imagine Hannibal is like, he shares that with Hannibal, and Hannibal is very happy about it.
Oh yeah, Hannibal is like, oh yeah.
And from here we cut to what we saw at the end of the last episode, which is Hannibal arriving in his dining room and finding Will, of course, with Randall displayed on his dining room table, which of course has, I think, a lot of metaphorical value right there. Yeah. There was a thing in the script that I sent you that was so corny. In the script originally, there was like a Post-it note on his body that said "Return to Sender," and it just makes me realize like without the incredible talents of everybody involved in making the show, it could have been so much worse. That's so corny that someone along the way was like, "Nah, fam, we're not doing that," and it's so much better. For
maybe we don't need to.
And Will says his line, the one that kind of chilled us last time. This makes us even Steven. And Hannibal says this is an act of reciprocity, and Will actually says like, you know, a lot of times this is the kind of act that's not observed in like proper society, like we kind of again coming to shame. And Hannibal asks, "Did you kill him with your hands?" And Will holds up his hands and his knuckles are bloodied, and he says it was intimate.
And Will is basically describing what he's done to someone else while imagining Hannibal as intimate. And I just. Yes.
I didn't even know the word hanagram this time last year. Didn't even know the word. And now look at you.
It's so funny because we're getting comments in the Discord. People are like, "Oh, Mary is shipping it so hard." I'm like, "Wait,
you have no idea.
Wait until
you have no idea." Yeah. Almost against my will, I'm shipping it. Will
I'm
looks
like,
at Hannibal walks over and touches Will's hand and like brings it up, and they look at his bloody knuckles together. And Hannibal says he deserved intimacy, and then we get this montage of just beautiful shots of like Hannibal cleaning Will's wounds with like an Epsom salt bath, and like seeing like the blood disperse in the water as he cleans it. Just incredible shots.
That looked a lot to me like aftercare.
You said that and it kind of blew my mind, to be honest with you, because I was just like, oh wow, you're absolutely right. Like, especially because like as he's doing this, he's warning Will, like, don't just go inside. Like, you're going to be very tempted. Like, stay with me. I'm quite pleased. Like he's like supporting him, right? Like he's trying to
he's
hold
making
him up.
Sure that he doesn't drop is what's happening.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
to put words on it.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for actually using language. It's always helpful.
Language, yes.
And it's just again, like it's just this extremely intimate moment between two people. And I don't think that you can like say anything else about it. Like it's just, and like Hannibal asking him directly, like, "Hey, did you fantasize about me when you killed him?" And Will just looks at him and whispers, "I have never felt so alive as when I killed him." Like the excitement and the tremor and the fear of being shamed for that excitement in Will's voice is incredible. Like it just wow.
There's like a long pause, right? Because he looks at him and then he says something, and there's a long pause, which I really appreciate because I find that sometimes TV shows are like too quick to cut some silences, right? But here they really kind of let it linger, and it got me wondering if Will, like the relationship to shame here, because I don't know if this has happened to you, but like when you're having trouble saying something, it just like it makes me wonder if Will is like trying to get over his shame and to tell him, or if he's trying to play into his shame and not tell him. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's definitely the former. Like I feel like this is the moment that you confess to a partner that you like something that would be you know, quote unquote taboo or whatever, right? Right. It's that moment of literally not literally, but taking off the veil, right? Like exposing yourself to somebody, and the fear of rejection in doing that because, you know, you've been shamed for it before, or society shames or looks down on this. And of course, like we're talking about the actual murder of a man, which is a shameful act in general.
Oh yes, it's true. I forgot about that.
But I think there's this moment where Will is genuinely like telling, this is the moment, like, he's confessed to Hannibal before that like he enjoyed killing Garrett Jacob Hobbs, and it's always been in this like tremored whisper that he does it. And this is the first time I think that we see what, like, you kind of like when I said the self-defense thing, you kind of pushed back against that, because you're right. He had him down. Like he could have just been like, I'm going to tie you up and then that's it. Like, or whatever. Like, no, but no, he beat this dude to death with his hands, and then broke his neck.
Listen, he could have shot him and killed him, and I would have still considered it self-defense. But the fact that like he took pleasure in hitting him,
threw away the gun.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He threw away the gun. Like,
so to me, this is definitely like a moment of confession, of trying to overcome his own sense of shame at enjoying this so much. I'd be curious, we're going to do a feedback episode. I'm curious what people think about this scene and specifically because I think it's such an important scene for Hannibal and Will's relationship. I think every scene is an important scene between Hannibal and Will's relationship.
I feel like we're going to get so much feedback about this episode. Like people are going to be like, yes, talk more about this.
I think the problem with season 2 is that the finale overshadows so much that people focus on the finale and they forget stuff that's happened throughout the rest of the season. And there's a reason for that. Like it deserves that, but also like they built the reason that the finale works so well is because of stuff like this, right? It's because we get this sort of investment. So
I agree.
When Will says that he never felt so alive, Hannibal responds with like, well, now you owe Randall a debt for allowing you to feel that way. How will you repay him? And then we cut to the interior of the Museum of Natural History, where the camera kind of slowly comes down some stairs and very slowly it's revealed Randall's corpse stretched over the saber tooth that he was building in the last episode or the episode before last. His head has been like cut off, like the lower jaw is cut off, and it's like been basically like slid on top of the saber-tooth's face, so it looks like he's got these awful talons coming out of the bottom of his face. His arms were cut off and like put on the legs of the saber-tooth, so it's like this horrible combination of animal human, and
it's quite grotesque.
It's very grotesque.
Yeah.
It feels like a Hannibal thing, right? But,
yes.
But the implication here is that Will did this. And this means Will is in so much more trouble than I thought he was, to be honest with you, right? Like, if I could see Will like bringing Randall to Hannibal like a cat brings a present, right? Brings a dead bird.
Yes, it's true.
But like this is a whole. Like if the cat dismembered the bird and put it on a skeleton and brought it to your door, you'd be much more concerned about the cat.
That's incredibly much more concerning. Yes, very concerned.
Jack Crawford is here, and we skip ahead a little bit.
And Jack Crawford is quite concerned, let's be honest.
He's very concerned. The body, of course, is being photographed, and
Sorry.
Jack, Hannibal, and Will are there to inspect the body. And Hannibal says that this is a mutilation, as a humiliation, and Will says, "No, this isn't mockery. This is the killer is commemorating him," which is an interesting way to talk about what you did, Will.
Yeah. Yes, definitely a very interesting way of talking about that. Do you remember the episode? Well, of course you remember the episode with the social worker because of the horse, but like there's in that moment, there was like Jack and Will kind of putting on a show for Hannibal, and here we're seeing Will and Hannibal putting on a show for Jack, and I'm just like, Will, that is a dangerous game you are playing. And like I don't know, I don't think that Will, because then the question is like, where is Will pretending? Is he pretending with Jack or is he pretending with Hannibal?
Yeah.
And I guess that's where the crux of the question is. Who is Will Graham? Is he the guy who will go undercover to help catch a murderer? Or is he the guy who will help the murderer in the end? And I am starting to think that maybe Will is the murderer helper.
It could be both. You know what I'm saying? He'd be playing both sides at the same time.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure.
It's so interesting to me that the way that this conversation unfolds, because the camera goes between, of course, Jack, Will, and Hannibal, and as they're talking about like the desires for this that this killer had, or that they're kind of proposing, Hannibal and Will are having a completely different conversation than Jack is having with Hannibal and Will.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even think Jack recognizes it. Like, he doesn't even see, it's not like over his head, it's like over his atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like he doesn't even perceive that he's missing anything. He doesn't even hear like the feel of wind as it goes over his head. Like, it's so high up. Like, it's just, he's just completely oblivious to this conversation.
I honestly wonder how oblivious he is, because you can see that he's looking suspiciously at them, though, right? Like, right?
Yeah.
No, is that just me? Like, because
No,
I don't
absolutely.
want to,
Yeah.
you know. I don't know. I just feel like he's not entirely oblivious. Like, he knows, and I think that he is. If he wasn't how do I say this? If he hadn't had those conversations with Will at the beginning of the mid-season 2, let's put it that way, when Will got out of prison, I think that he would be a lot more suspicious. But because he thinks that Will is in his corner, he's letting it go, because he's like, he's going to help us catch a murderer. Because I think Jack might think that this is Hannibal, not Will. I don't think he thinks it's Will, but I think he thinks this was done by Hannibal.
Yeah, I think he's starting to have those suspicions.
Yeah.
Like, and I think,
Yeah.
and maybe like we've seen Will very specifically tell Jack, like, you're going to have to come to your own conclusions. Like, he said that in front of Beverly's body, right? So there's this idea, and we've seen Jack and Will alone, like, going fishing, and like, you know, you get them on the hook and I'll reel them in, kind of thing. That conversation, but we don't know what to the extent that means, and like,
exactly.
I'm sure Jack is willing to work with Will to get information on Hannibal, and it's interesting as Will and Hannibal speak, like, Hannibal specifically doesn't say anything. Like, he doesn't confess to anything. He always talks his way around it. But I doubt that Jack and the FBI would be like, it's totally cool if you go undercover and then like rip a man apart and stretch his face over some 1,000-year-old bones.
There's only so much that they will excuse, right? Like, and I think that they would not excuse that, right? Like, they actually do not excuse cannibalism,
They do not. Yeah,
unlike the both of us.
Hopefully the FBI does not excuse cannibalism.
Yeah.
So
there's a thing that because I had always seen like a meme or like a text from Tumblr or something, like kind of floating around fandom of like Jack and Alana kind of like politely making conversation while Will and Hannibal are like basically having very loud sex in a corner, and Jack is like, oh, this meal is delicious, and I was like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. But then I watched this and I was like, I get it now. Like, I get
now
the meme.
Now we understand it. Will closes his eyes and takes a big breath in, and the pendulum begins to swing. And we see Will, now he's alone with what the script referred to as the Randall tooth, which seems very demeaning script. But the camera zooms in on Randall's face, which is now moving, like the eyes are moving. And kind of a voiceover as Randall begins to speak, asking Will to come closer and closer. He says, I want to see you. Can you see you? Which is, and Will is kind of circling the body, like looking at the work that he has done. We get a perspective from like a balcony above where we see a hand. So we know he's being watched. And as as the camera kind of rotates around him, behind him, we see human Randall, with just like all of his limbs intact, completely naked, and talking to Will about, whether this is a monument, but it's not a monument to Randall, it's a monument for Will, right?
Right.
And I think Will argues that like this is the form that you've always wanted. Like, we finally put you into what you like. This finally matches what you had in your head. And there's this great shot of Randall's arm, which you don't see the rest of his body, reaching out to grab Will and saying, "This is my becoming." And then it switches to a front view of Will's face, and he says, "This is my design." And like,
oh my God,
we've seen him say this so many times about using his ability to kind of conjure up scenes, right? Like to these serial killers, and saying like, "This is my design," in the voice of the serial killer. We've never seen it was actually his, like, he did this was literally his design. Like, he's not being empathic about another serial killer, and it's terrifying.
Well, so but he's being empathic to himself, I think, probably for the first time ever.
Oh, maybe
Is
so.
that possible?
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
Like, because maybe he's finally starting to see himself, right? In a way that he never really wanted to or allowed himself to before.
It's interesting that he doesn't quite deny that this is my becoming. He says this is my design. Like, I wonder if he's still struggling with the fact that he is, in that chrysalis state that Hannibal is whispering to. If he doesn't, if he's just not letting himself admit that. And we're gonna talk about that in detail in the last scene of this episode, I think, because we get some idea. He specifically tells us what he's thinking. Will comes back into the real world, and he tells Jack and Hannibal that this killer knew Randall, that they had similar motives, and he says that the killer envied Randall because Randall was good at killing, and this killer is brand new. He's never killed like this before. And Hannibal, I think, says that, and Will says he's never killed like this. This is the nightmare that followed him out of his dreams, which is very specifically talking about him. And like Will and Hannibal are like basically shaking hands and hugging right at this moment, and Jack is just not noticing. He's just looking at his iPad or something. It's very funny.
It's the meme.
It's the meme. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This
a reason.
meal is delicious.
Yeah, it's so much funny. We're going to cut to Freddie Lowndes' apartment where Will arrives. Several episodes ago, he agreed to give her the entire story of his time in the Chesapeake Ripper. And she tells him that, hey, this book has already been optioned for a movie. I'm going to Hollywood. I'm going to be rich and famous or whatever. She begins recording, and they start talking about the Chesapeake Ripper, who is Dr. Chilton. And she points out that, like, Chilton, didn't, like, that Will was so convinced it was Hannibal that he tried to have Hannibal killed, and Will says, "You forgot to say allegedly," and she's like, "No, I didn't." You did that shit, homie. Like, I know that you did.
You have to give it to her though for saying that and for sticking to what she believes to be true, and she's right.
Absolutely, yeah. And we learned that like Freddie is starting to doubt this whole Chesapeake Ripper story because she thinks that. And she thinks that Will may be right about Hannibal, even though Will is now saying that he was wrong. But she's found out, she's talked to like Chilton's like colleagues and doctor school or whatever, and found out that he's kind of a terrible surgeon, which is just a real. I mean, we're just going to shit on Chilton for a long time, I guess.
I know. Poor Chilton. I'm like, can't they let him rest in peace?
Nope,
like, poor baby.
Apparently not. But apparently he was a bad enough surgeon. So like, even though he fits the profile of the Chesapeake Ripper, like that's one thing that like she doesn't think he was capable of. And it's just so funny that we're just this poor dead guy that we didn't even like to begin with.
We didn't like him, but the second he was like, I don't know, for me, the second that I realized that that what was going to happen, I was like, oh, he didn't deserve that. Poor baby. And she also said that she spoke with like old colleagues of Hannibal's, and they said that he fled to psychiatry, I think is the word she used, to avoid embarrassment. And again, I'm curious about that. Like, I'm finding myself to be quite curious about like the story before this. And I know that you're like, no, Mary, no, don't. It's fine. You can leave it alone.
I think she's specifically referring to Chilton, not Hannibal, when she says that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's okay. That's where she found out like he was real bad at surgery, so he fled to psychiatry.
So he fled to psychiatry. I see. Okay.
Will insists that his story with the Chesapeake Ripper already has an ending, and Freddie says mine doesn't, and insists that like she doesn't believe that Dr. Chilton killed Abigail, and that she's not going to let that go, even if she has to let this entire book go. She's never going to let that go. And Will just kind of like woefully looks at her, and it's like, trust me, Freddie, neither will I.
Have they ever actually talked about Abigail together openly? Hannibal and Will?
No. Mm-mm.
No way. Okay.
I mean, there was some...
Because like, I feel like if... Because I feel like that would be one thing that might tip Will over in terms of like working with the police rather than working with Hannibal.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just like kind of thinking, and I'm like, as much as I think like it's really cool and hot to see them together. I'm like, yeah, but Will is so upset still about Abigail.
Yes, absolutely. And you would think that they would like at least commiserate a little bit. But again, like I'm sure every time Will, and we see this like in their therapy sessions, like every time Will brings up or tries to like get inside of Hannibal's at any moment, like either Hannibal just changes the subject or doesn't talk about it or like asks a deflecting question or whatever. He never admits out loud like the stuff that he does. There's a scene in the script that's like very that was not in the episode that's very much like that, where you could tell Will is like specifically trying to draw him out, and Hannibal just gives him like kind of deflecting questions and answers. So from here we cut to Hannibal, who is having a therapy session with Margot, who, of course, as we know, failed to kill her brother and was quote unquote punished for it, was wounded by it, but hurt by her brother. And Margot says that she's going to, or Hannibal says she has to kill him, or she's going to continue to get quote unquote punished. And he says that the reason that she didn't kill him successfully the first time is because you're in love, you still love him. And he says, in love, you take leave of your senses, but in hatred, you must be present. Allow yourself to hate him. And he continues on telling, like, he's never going to let you go. He's never going to give you what you want. Like, and he mentions that taking his chocolate. I don't think we see this in the show. Like, this was kind of a book thing. I think it's just a little, but like in the show or in the book, like Mason very specifically like gives kids chocolate, and it's heavily implied that he abuses them in some way. So that's what the taking his chocolate is like agreeing to the abuse, right? Like he thinks he's paying for something. It's really gross, really gross. Like as bad as TV Mason is, the books are way worse. So. Oh
God. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. See, I can excuse cannibalism, but I cannot excuse that. Like, there is no world, world in which, no. I always forget that there's a book about this. I'm like, oh yeah, this is brand new media, but I'm like, oh no, it's true. I'm gonna have questions maybe eventually about Margot, but we'll see. Sorry, okay. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I was just gonna, the rest of the conversation is her telling Hannibal that in her dad's will, it states that once he passes, everything goes to the closest male heir, and if there's not a male heir, it gets donated to a church, like a Southern Baptist church or something. And Hannibal's like, I wonder what your legacy would be. And she says, I don't get a legacy. And he says, unless you make one. And it's kind of implied what I think she does with the rest of this episode. We'll talk about it more in depth as we get through the episodes. And there's some also like sensitive topics here that I don't think we need to get into now that we'll probably get into when we see some of the stuff. Right. But this is just as a warning for folks who are following along at home. Margot's storyline is one of the most horrifying and tragic that we'll see. So.
Well, so when I first watched this episode, I was like, that is such a weird thing to say. And I remembered Hannibal talking about his own legacy being his work one time in a conversation with Bedelia, right? So I know that that's how he sees his own legacy. But the thing is here that when I heard that line, especially in the context of like the whole male heir thing, I was like, is he telling her to go make a baby? Because that's pretty fucked up. Like, that's fucked up. But again, it's Hannibal. And I think he just says stuff to like, I can't believe I wrote this, but I'm like, to plant his seed in his patient's psyche.
What an episode to talk about planting seeds. Jesus.
I know, that's why I was like, I can't believe I did that. But yeah, so he kind of like plants ideas in people's minds, and then he sees what they do with it. He can only like whisper into the chrysalis, but what comes out is entirely out of his reach. And you can just tell that this comment really rattles Margot.
Absolutely. Like she's shook, fam.
Yeah, she is.
It's a moment, and like you have to wonder, like, is he telling her to make a male heir, and then she can get rid of Mason without having to worry about losing the empire, right? And like the implications there are wild to me. But again, this is what Hannibal does. Like,
yes,
I mean, he's so, like, with his other patients besides Will, like, he just wants them to he wants them to satisfy their most base urges and like in the most direct way possible, and he urges them on to do that. Margot more directly than we've seen, I think, with his other patients, but
much more directly.
We cut over to the Verger estate, which is palatial, as you might imagine. And she's riding a horse. She's in full dressage gear. This is so funny because, like, Autumn does dressage, and this is not like, what she is wearing is not like, I'm out for a fun ride on a Saturday morning. Like, this is like, I just came back from a competition and for some reason rode my horseback. Like, it's very much like,
it's like competition.
Exactly.
Wear,
yeah.
right?
Like, there's very strict requirements on, like, the breeches that you wear and the colors and all this stuff. And like, she is like, she just went to a show. Like, she's riding her horseback from a show or something. But she finds Mason waiting for her, and he's holding a baby suckling pig. Which is distressing to me for some reason. I don't know why. Holding a pig should not be so scary, but Mason makes it terrifying.
But again, I think you have the context of the book.
Yes, also that.
Which, yeah.
And I'm kind of curious. Like, this is the first time we've seen Mason, I believe. And to me, you just instantly hate this guy. Like, his attitude, his condescending nature. The way that he talks to Margot just immediately, like, was that your first impression as well? Like, when we finally see him?
Oh yeah, he's terrifying immediately, because it's not so much. It's the combination of everything. It's the fact that, like, he has such a depraved mind, but also so many means to make those thoughts happen.
Yes.
That. It's the kind of man, and I say man very specifically, it's the kind of man that I would absolutely, like, steer so far away from in my life that I could, like, there you go. Yeah.
And, and in this situation, Margot is chained to him. Like, he's family, right?
Yeah.
Like, and she's too tied up in the family to be able to leave. He walks her upstairs, overlooking this, what she calls a maze. It looks like a metal maze. And he begins to talk about this idea that he had after their father died, this Christmas vision that he had. And as we look at the maze, we see, like, they're unloading a bunch of just wild looking pigs into this thing. And above the maze, above the center point, is like this giant, like, antique mirror, like, very, very fancy and kind of, like, completely unmatching all of the very basic, like, functional farm stuff that we're seeing. He says that he starts describing pigs to her, saying that they have a terrible practicality in their face. And Margot has, like, this it's interesting the way that she delivers all of her statements in this, because she has this very flat tone, where she just says, you do have an intimate understanding of piggishness, but it's even flatter than that. Like, it's like she's trying to not have an emotion in her voice whatsoever. And he responds that your mouth gets rough when you're scared. And that's terrifying and gross. But then we meet Carlo. Carlo is somebody that has gotten pigs to eat a live man in the past. So he's helping Mason train these pigs to eat a live person. And as we watch, Carlo is stuffing meat and other assorted viscera into clothes, which he then, like, sprays with the perfume. And as they lift up this effigy, we realize it's of Margot. Margot looks at it and says, that's one of my suits or one of my jackets or something. And Mason just kind of brushes this off and says, I'll buy you a new one. And they're basically teaching these pigs how to eat a live person. So he turns on a soundtrack of screams so the pigs get used to it. And he says that they won't need that soundtrack when it's actually happening for real. And he kind of comes up behind her and, in this, like, faux loving way, and says, I want you to be proud of us. You're all I have, and I am all that you have. And then as he's talking about it, the body is lowered and the pigs get a hold of it, and it's just this horrible sound of pig squealing as they decimate this fake this effigy of Margot. It's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, I'm being very quiet just because like there's nothing to add to this, right? Like it's awful, frankly, because she is forced to watch as like her brother is literally training pigs to eat her.
Yeah. This is horrifying. This is so gross.
Absolutely. And I really hate to give it to the cannibal. But Hannibal isn't cruel. Right? Well, so he is. But he doesn't make his victims suffer.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Because, like, yes, of course he kills them, but like
Miriam Lass specifically said, like, I was treated well, I was fed,
Yeah.
like, even when he took my arm, like, he provided me drugs, all that other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if he's kidnapping you for 2+ years, he's like treating you okay, right? Like, so I definitely,
Yeah.
there's a level of cruelty of just murdering somebody, and then there's a level of cruelty of what Mason is doing, right? Like actively
Yeah, exactly.
torturing somebody until they die.
Exactly, and Mason is the opposite of what you just described Hannibal doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he clearly takes pleasure in that cruelty that he's inflicting on Margot specifically. And we've never really seen Hannibal do anything like that. And Mason has no shame, like in the most negative way possible. Like no shame whatsoever.
Yeah. It's insane. Like, this is what being rich and fucking I guess a sociopath. Like, I don't even know what Mason is, right? Like, but he has like
Right.
having all of the money in the
know.
world to enable every dirty fantasy of his is like, it's just so terrifying. Like what the rich can do, right? Like, it's just throw money at a problem and you can make this.
Well, who was that? Oh my gosh. I forget his name, but like that guy who built a hotel in Chicago.
Oh yeah, full of with the weird rooms and everything. Yeah.
Yes, specifically to kill people in it. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what?
Because there was the Supernatural
Yeah.
episode that was kind of loosely
Yes.
based on that. Yeah. And there's a
Yeah.
name for that, and it's killing me that I can't. It's not the Winchester House. That's a different vibe altogether.
No,
But
very different vibe.
oh man, it's
But
killing
yes,
me.
there's a name.
Yeah.
People are screaming at us right now. I
know.
forget the name. I usually remember it. I'm sick. Sue me. I'm fine. Okay.
So now we're gonna go to.
Oh, it's starting. Oh yes, the sex has begun.
So now we see Alana and Hannibal. Hannibal is sitting behind Alana, straddling her, as the script says, as she is trying to quote unquote play the theremin. And she's making it sound very, very bad. Like, it's anytime I've said it, any kind of musical instruments, it's making horrible sounds. So I get this. And we see, like, slowly his hands kind of stroking down her arm over her hands and kind of showing her the movement to correct her, to show her how to play this instrument you don't have to touch.
And I kind of love that. I love the callback to the hands. I think it's genius because, like, it reminds me immediately of Hannibal asking Will if he fantasized about him while killing Randall, like, while he's giving him aftercare, right, and cleaning his wounds. And it just, like, it's inferring that Hannibal is also fantasizing about Will while he's sleeping with Alana.
And we go absolutely correct, by the way. We're going to cut back and forth between, and things are going to get real dreamy here in a minute. So just bear with us, folks. It's difficult to describe some of this stuff on a podcast. We go from here to Will's house where Margot has arrived. And she says that she's, bringing him another bottle to thank him for the last time. Hannibal, we go back to the Hannibal and Alana scene. And he's basically telling her, like, close your eyes and just feel the vibrations. And like, he puts her hand above her breast on her sternum, is like, feel it here. And the script is very specific. His other hand is in like between her thighs, and he's like, feel it here. It doesn't, we just see that his hand is gone. Like, we don't see this in the show, but the script, like I said, is very descriptive of what he is doing.
And BC was like, okay, well, not that much sex. Thank you.
Yeah. We just show the hand disappearing, I guess.
It's very sensual anyway, because
is.
like this, we're going to talk about this a lot as like sexy, sex, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think like the sensuality of it is really the biggest appeal to me anyway, because it's something that we don't always see. We associate sex with like very specific acts in our society, but like that sensuality of like feeling music and to associate it with like the vibration and the touch of another person. Like, I just think that is very, very hot, very sensual, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that like scene from Ghost is
Yes.
hit the world, right? Like the whole world remembers.
I've never seen Ghost either.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? Like
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking
with the
about,
clay
of
and
course.
everything. Okay, yeah.
Yes,
We're the
yes,
only.
yes. I mean, come on, Swayze.
Yeah, Winnie Goldberg. Is that her name? Winnie. It's not Oprah.
I don't know.
Anyway, there's just a black woman in the background being a ghost while Patrick Swayze. Anyway, doesn't matter. We have to get into it. But yes, absolutely, you're correct. Like I think that this is way more sensual than it is like just pure like sensationalism or whatever. Like this is them touching each other and like rubbing each other. And it's just a very sensual. We cut back over to Will, where Margot is asking, what happened to your window, and he says, "Oh, a stag broke through, and
Right.
it may have wounded me a little bit." And she says, "Oh, are you scarred?" And he says, "Probably more than you know," or maybe she says that, and she begins to kind of unbutton her shirt, and Will is like, "Hold up, like." I don't have the right parts for your proclivities is a very funny line, but but he's trying to like, hey, I don't know why this is happening, but like, I'm not into it just yet.
Yeah. Right. And I just love that right after he says that, it cuts to Hannibal's hands.
So good. Absolutely so good.
Like, the show has no more shame about what it's trying to say. Because
we're 100% like just shameless now. Yeah.
The right parts for Will's proclivities are Hannibal's hands at this point is what I'm understanding from this montage.
Alana tells Hannibal that the theremin is a very psychological instrument, and Hannibal agrees with her, and says, they work with people the same way that they'll work with the theremin, guiding them towards thoughts and conversations. And for the first time, Hannibal's voice now overlaps with the scene between Will and Margot, as they begin to undress one another and show each other the scars, which is also kind of hot. Like this slow kind of undressing and exposing without like the kind of the frantic nature of like ripping a shirt off or anything, but like literally exposing yourself and the damage that you have with these scars. Yeah. It's pretty hot. Yeah, it's interesting. I just saw your note in here, and now I'm dying.
Which one? Would it be better or worse to cover this scene with Chris? I wonder what you think.
It's been like, I don't talk a lot about sex on Maine, right? Like, it's not something that I generally talk about.
I was actually kind of wondering about how you felt about this episode with regards to that, because I know you don't love it, and that's fine, right?
Yeah.
But it's also like this demands it, and so I'm like, I don't know how he's going to feel about this.
But like, we started this podcast together, and then me and Chris started the Game of Thrones podcast together, and like Game of Thrones basically like invented the term sex position. So like we've had to talk around like, dudes getting blowies while watching other people fuck, and like
right,
all of this kind of other stuff. So it's been interesting.
It's been interesting.
Chris and I generally just laugh our way through it, but like this, I don't really think there's nothing about this that's necessarily funny to me. No. It's more like you said, like sensual and kind of outrageous more than like because the HBO sex is so like, we're here to show you TNA, right? Like that's what we want to get you excited, and like this wants to get you excited, but in a much different way, right?
I think that there's also the fact that like this uses sensuality and sexuality in order to tell a part of the story, right? Like to show the thinning of the boundaries between a lot of things and a lot of characters in the story. Whereas I find that in Game of Thrones, it's really just used as a way to show how edgy the world is, right?
Also true,
It's much closer to pornography than it is to like telling a sexy story.
Yeah.
And anyway, there you go. Like, not putting a moral judgment on either, but I just find this to be more interesting storytelling wise.
Yeah. There's a reason that there's like on AO3 or like erotica sites that there's like stories that are, 500 words and some that are 50,000 words, right? Because there's some people are looking for a specific thing when it comes to being thrilled by something, and some people are looking for the longer thing, right? Like the build up and the kind of like this scene, like isn't just like, oh, they jump in bed together and they start banging. Like it's very, very like it's a build up, and we see that as like Will like falls down on his bed and Margot gets on top of him, and he quickly rolls her over, and this is where things start blending psychologically, I think, as he rolls over so that he's on top. He sees Alana's face and not Margot, and it's a little bit distressing to me that like Margot disappears from the rest of the scene. It's very like, she's just not in it until like the next morning, basically, which is kind of weird, and like I don't know, that's kind of shameful on Will. I think
I mean, yes. I think there's also something to be said about like falling into bed with someone for the wrong reasons, quote unquote, right? Like I think that's something that's relatable.
Sure, yeah.
I get it. I get it for sure. There's a line here that I really, really love where Hannibal says to Alana, "You and I went so long in our friendship without ever touching," but it's actually superimposed with Margot touching Will. And so like, again, you're really getting that feeling that these scenes or this scene is not about each couple, right? It's about
Hannibal and
how
Will.
each couple is using each other as a proxy, right? For something else.
To be very crass about it, Hannibal
else.
is fucking Will through his crush, right? Like that's the...
absolutely. Yes.
We're going to put like a very descriptive sentence to that. Like he is using Alana in this way. And I'm actually of two minds with this relationship with Alana because like we've seen him very obviously drug her and use her as a alibi with Jack. So like he's not above using her, but he doesn't seem to be above using the people that he deeply cares about. So I wonder like in his mind, like Will doesn't seem disposable. I wonder how disposable Alana is for him. Like
that's a very good question. I don't know.
And we see
all I know is that like when Will starts seeing Alana's face on Margot, we're starting to see that like he's fantasizing about Alana because that's who he thinks at the moment he really desires, and he's like lowering himself to kiss her, and immediately you cut to Hannibal in the exact same position lowering himself to kiss Alana, right?
And this gets more intense as like the camera shifts back and forth. We see a long shot of Hannibal like on top of Alana, like next to the fire. And then we see Will imagining, or Alana kissing Hannibal like from the side, as Will is like imagining this, and then Alana turns over and begins to kiss Will. So now like there's this blended fantasy that he and Hannibal are both like sharing Alana, which like, you know, maybe that's a safe way to explore with one another. You know, two guys that maybe.
If you knew the number of women, of queer women that I know who are now dating after having a threesome with one guy because they thought they were both into the guy and now they're actually a couple, you would be so surprised of knowing the number of couples that I know who started off that way.
Interesting.
So yes, absolutely. It is a safer quote unquote way to explore certain things.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon at all.
And I think this is out as you're watching this for the first time. Like I'm even watching it again for probably on my fourth or fifth time, I was like shocked again, because, you know, I to keep going back to that point, like to belabor it, like it was on NBC. They put it in the airwaves. And this is wild. And like we see Will's face up close as he's literally inside somebody else, and he's having like these intense physical sensations, and he looks over and he imagines Hannibal's fireplace, and we see the man stag, which we love to call not friend is our nickname for
not
him.
friend. So like he's not friend shaped.
He's not friend shaped at all. And this not friend shaped thing like gets up and moves closer, almost like this thing is going to participate in what Will is doing. And then we see the long shot. We saw it with Hannibal on top of Alana, but now it's the stag man on top of Alana.
It's the not friend.
It's the not friend, and everybody starts orgasming at the same time. Like we all simultaneously come. It's a great situation.
Yeah.
And then we see the three in bed with one another. Again, Margot is not. She's the point two in this relationship. There's not a lot going on with her. We see these three in bed, and like Alana's kissing Will, and then she turns over to face Hannibal, and Will reaches out to like stroke her hair, and then of course like they fade out, and he's just in bed alone. And as we cut to
let him have a threesome. Oh my god,
let him
poor
have
baby.
a threesome.
Let him.
Just want to share. You know what I'm saying? Like sharing kind of man.
Will certainly seems to be. So Hannibal seems to be for sure.
Very sharing.
I feel like Hannibal like has such an interesting sense of like jealousy in relationships, right? Like, yes. I feel like he would, I don't know, like I'm fascinated with that. I'm excited.
And then the final scene is Will waking up with his hand outstretched on his bed, and we see Margot like putting her clothes together to get up to leave.
There's just so much to unpack here, because I think first off, like if you don't want to see anything else, or if you can't see anything else, the scene is shot and edited in a way that you just can't deny that Alana is like a proxy for these two men, right? Like on a foundational level. Alana's character, you know, at this point in the story serves as a way to tell a romance between these two men that could not be told on primetime NBC in 2014, right? And so I think that like it's a way to be like, oh, okay, so like they're both into each other, so they're just both imagining that they're with the same girl, right? And I would also argue that this is a story that still can't really be told on primetime NBC today,
sure,
in 2025. If we do want to go a little bit further, I would also say that Will imagining the stag man in this moment of like very primal, intimate instinct means that he's specifically picturing Hannibal. He's not specifically picturing Alana. It's Hannibal, right? And I think that that's what the opening scene of the episode was priming us for, right? Like the person that he really wishes he was with and that he really wishes that he was making love to is Hannibal.
It's interesting that he imagines the stag man, because it's almost like he's not envisioning Hannibal in his person suit. He's envisioning what Hannibal truly is, right? The nightmare that followed him out of his dreams. So he's very much C.
Yeah.
And I think because that's the thing that Will is attracted to the most about Hannibal is this darkness, is this concealed thing that's inside, that only Will and sometimes Bedelia can touch, right? And that maybe Abigail got a little too close to. We don't, a
little too close, too fast, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Poor girl.
And so as he's looking over, like, as he's literally like having these physical sensations and imagining the darkness within this man that only he can see, right? Like the actual the killer. And this is where like this. Like, if you think about this, he can't say this out loud to somebody. Like, he can't confess this attraction. Like, which leads to, like, it's the topic of the theme of our episode, shame, right? Like, this is, like, as he sees Margot leaving, like, you get a clear idea that that he thinks he participated in a shameful act. Like, you can kind of see it on his face.
Oh, yeah.
It's not lingered on for very long, but it is there, I think.
Well, yeah, I think you can tell that like Margot also feels that way because of how quickly she's leaving, right? Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, I kind of feel like I need to come clean about something, because when I saw Margot putting on her clothes and leaving, like, and especially with the making a legacy comment earlier, I was like, did Margot just do this to get pregnant? And like, first off, I think, I mean, story-wise, I think that shows like a glaring misunderstanding of how women's bodies work. But that, that aside, for personal reasons, I really hate this kind of storyline specifically. Like, it really irks me. And And so I did ask you to spoil that part for me so that I could prepare myself for it mentally, because like if these had been tags on a fic, I would not have read that fic, because this for me is a big ick.
Sure.
So there you go. Just kind of putting that out there for people to know.
So yeah, I obviously one of the appeals of this podcast is having Mary kind of go through stuff the first time, like unknowing.
Right.
But I think in this situation, like it was a worthwhile thing to do is kind of walk her through the rest of Margot's plot line. We're not going to get into it here. Like new listeners or that are new to the show can also
discover it along with us, right?
But I think a general warning also of just like the stuff that happens to Margot, like I said earlier, is pretty gruesome, and it's tough to watch. I would imagine it's tough to watch for me, so I can only imagine if you've gone through any sort of pregnancy situation how it would be. It's interesting too, not to keep referring back to the script, but there's a whole scene between Margot and Hannibal where he specifically encourages her to get pregnant. Like they talk about it.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if they filmed that or not, but it's definitely not in this episode. So you were not wrong. Like you picked up on something that was literally removed from the episode. I don't know why. Like I think people are starting to believe that you're just psychic when it comes to stuff because you're reading the show so well. Like the stuff that you predict and like latch onto so early is so great. Like it's so amazing. You should see the spoiler chat. Like people just pat you on the back all the time.
I'm gonna go back to the spoiler chat eventually and read some parts of it, because I have major FOMO about it. I'm not gonna lie.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the Margot thing, like really, the whole like sleeping with a man just to get pregnant is
Yeah. We go from this incredibly wild threesome scene to a very standard scene where Alana is walking and Frankie confronts her on the street. And I love Alana's like disgusted as soon as she sees Frankie. It's just a very good reaction. Yeah. And Frankie is there to kind of needle her about Will and Hannibal, and specifically Hannibal, saying like, you know, she was an impressionable young student when Hannibal was her teacher. Like, were you sleeping with him back then? Are you still sleeping with Will? And Alana gives her a look, and Frankie says, "Oh, you are sleeping with him. Like, I didn't know which. I knew it was one of them, but I just guessed." But she says like it's clouding Alana's judgment, that she can't see what the real thing that's happening, which is that Will was right about Hannibal and Frankie was right about Will. And she points out, like, you know, 4 people have died in Hannibal Lecter's care, 3 people have died outside after he was cared for them, and now Will is back in therapy with him. Like maybe he's figured out if you can't beat Hannibal, you just have to join him. And yeah, Alana just brushes all of this off.
Oh yeah, because Freddie is right. Her judgment is clouded by the really good sex she's having with Hannibal, right? Like, and I mean, we've all been there.
You ever had sex in front of a theremin? It's amazing.
Well, sure. I haven't been privy to that yet, but you know, maybe one day. But the reality is that we've all kind of like, you know, not looked at red flags because we were happy in the relationship that we were, right?
Sure,
and I think that that's exactly what's going on with Alana. And Freddie is just kind of pointing that out. And so far, Freddie has been right. Although I have to say, in story, I don't understand what she's trying to accomplish, because I know that like this is meant for later when Alana is going to be questioning the boys about it. But I'm trying to think as Freddie here, and I'm like, what is she trying to accomplish? She knows that Alana's not going to give her anything. Like, I don't know.
I think
I just don't get it.
She's just pushing Alana to see. She's just pushing buttons, right? Like this is kind of a lesser form of what Hannibal does to people, of just trying to manipulate Alana into giving up anything that she could use to break into Will or break into Hannibal or to use in her book or whatever. I think
she's whispering into the chrysalis.
Yeah, like her version, and her version of that is like shouting at someone on the street, right? Like it's a much less sophisticated way of doing it, because she's a much less sophisticated person than Hannibal is. So I think that's her goal, her stated goal in this. We cut from here to
in the story, in the book. Does this happen? Does Will sleep with Margot? Well, no, because Will is married, right?
Yeah.
So okay.
In the books, this is very weird, because we meet Mason after he has already met Hannibal.
Okay.
And at that time, like, it's not, Will Graham isn't even in the books anymore. Like, it's all focused on Clarice Starling.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
so like Will only shows up in Red Dragon, and like I think he's mentioned in Silence of the Lambs, but it's mentioned as like, yeah, that dude retired because the life was so fucked up from the meeting Hannibal Lecter, which I mean, hey, is a pretty good ending to the series if you think about it. Like, I'm gonna go to live by the ocean and try to not to think about you is definitely a valid thing for him to do.
That sounds like something like a Victorian lady would do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go live by the ocean and try not to think about you.
I'm so attracted to you that I need to go live by the ocean by myself.
Yes, I need to go live in celibacy for the rest of my life. You have ruined me for other men.
Yeah. You're so hot, I have to be celibate. Like, that's how hot you are.
The Stagman sex was so hot. To live in celibacy forever.
So this is kind of a remixed version of the Verger story that's in the books.
Okay,
we're gonna get like pretty much the same like plot points. They're just kind of mixed in a different timeline. And of course, and like I said in the books, like Will isn't involved in any of this stuff. I think in the books, Margot is like sneakily doing IVF stuff to do this.
I see. Okay.
But there also might be a moment where she like propositions a guy.
Okay.
I don't know. It's not the part of the books that I remember the most, I guess.
Really?
Yeah. Imagine me skimming all of that stuff. Hannibal has been invited to the merger compound, and he's escorted in by Carlo to meet Mason. And they meet at this, stage, this dais, but overneath the pig maze. And Hannibal is, of course, in these situations, like always very calm, cool, and collected. He admires Mason's swine, and it's revealed like he knows quite a lot about pigs, as he's like, what's your ground note? And Mason seems a little surprised, like, you must know pigs as you know people. And he looks at Mason and he goes, I do know pigs, which is, oh God, man. Right. He just does it. And of course, Mason says, I'm paying for Margot's therapy, so it was only right that I, get to be able to access her therapist. And he talks about how his father was also very, very into pigs, and knew a lot about breeding, which is why he was so disappointed in Margot's quote unquote button stitching. And you and I had a conversation about this because I had never heard the term button stitching outside of the show before.
Me neither.
And I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing out on some sort of like technique. Like if I'm 40 years old, I just learned how to stitch a button. You know what I'm saying? Poor Autumn. People are just going to be really, really sad for Autumn that I'm just now learning how to stitch buttons. So.
You're just now learning about button stitching. Oh my God.
Can't believe.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so we had this conversation and you were like, is this a thing? And I'm like, I heard the term and I'm like, whoa, I've never heard that. And then I'm like, oh, I mean, it is NBC, right? Like and I told you, I'm like, I'm assuming that it's because they were going to use another very crude term that like standards and practices was like, no, absolutely not. You cannot use that.
Yeah, and it turns out in the book it's exactly that term is what Mason says on this scene.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Which everybody here can imagine. Like we don't have to get into it.
No,
but you can kind of tell like this is hitting Hannibal's like rude chord, right? Like you could tell he already is considering Mason like the absolute fucking worst.
He is like immediately not pleased with that comment because Mason is like kind of making it as a joke. And we've all, this really got me actually, I have to say. And I was really rooting for Hannibal in that moment, right? Because you know how I've been like hot and cold when it comes to rooting for Hannibal. But in this moment, when you see this man make a crude joke about a queer woman and expects the other man in front of him to laugh with him, and the other man doesn't laugh, like, you know exactly what is happening. And I was just like, yeah, Hannibal, you show him. Like, you show him. Because it turns out that Hannibal can excuse cannibalism, but he draws the line at homophobia. And I love that about him.
Those are the stickers we need to get. I can excuse cannibalism, but we draw the line at homophobia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mason asks if Hannibal has ever had a sister, and Hannibal says yes. So this is a brief look into Hannibal's background. We know that he had a sister. the sister is a big important part of the books. I don't think that we talk about her in the show, so towards the end of season 3 we can delve off into that unless you want to read the books. In which case we can do it at the time that it happens. But Mason wonders like if Margot has told him what horrible things that he has done, if she's made up all of these things and that he's done to her. And Hannibal just says in like the bitchiest way possible, like I can't tell you what horrible things Margot has told me about you, and fortunately for you, I can't tell anyone else. And I love that line. Oh man, it's so good. It's absolutely so good.
And it feels like he's kind of testing Mason's shame here, right? Like, I know what you did. Like, how does that make you feel, right? Like, do you feel shame about the things that you've done, or do you just feel shame because I know about them? Exactly. And those are two separate things entirely, because you can tell when somebody is upset about the things that they've done and when they're upset that people know about them.
Exactly.
And that is two complete different experiences.
And I think that's the reason he like offers like, hey, Mason, like you probably need some therapy too. Have you ever thought about coming in? Because he sees this as an opportunity to manipulate Mason. And he offers Hannibal a pig, like let Carlos butcher a pig for you, and he says, I must insist I always I must pick my own swine. I always do. Which is very funny. In the books,
I'm like, you picked your next one, yes.
Just as a disturbing thing from the books that is stuck in my mind forever. There's some scenes where Mason remembers like going to like pig markets with his father, right? And there's a thing that his father did that I think contributed to Mason's cruelty and his just the awfulness in general. But his father like hid a blade in his hand, and as he was inspecting pigs, he would very quickly stab the pig with this blade to test how fat the tissue was, which told him like kind of more about the pig and whether or not he wanted to buy it. But it was just this like sly way of hurting something that he learned at his father's hip, right? And again, we're not excusing Mason for anything at all, but I just for some reason that detail really sticks out of my head. It's a really like vivid detail, and I can just picture like young Mason like seeing his father do this and like getting the idea of like hiding his own little cruelties. Like that's how he treats Margot, right? So I just wanted to bring it up. So.
Ooh, that's interesting. I'll be thinking about that.
So now it's time for a dinner party.
Yes, of course.
I just Marie. What is this?
I'm so sorry.
What is this note?
You started it.
So Hannibal serves an entire pig to Alana and Will.
And I'm like, you mean whole hog, right?
Yes, he shows the whole hog. Perfect.
Okay, cool.
He says it was a gift from a friend, and Will comments that it was a gift of a friend of yours, but not a friend of the pigs. And Hannibal says, well, maybe not. Like, there's farmers who grow to love their animals. And Alana chimes in, they love and they eat what they love. And so everybody's having a fun psychological conversation right now.
No, Alana, no, don't say that. You don't want to talk about people eating what they love.
And she brings up Freddie Lowndes, saying that Freddie is thinking that maybe she thinks that Freddie is wrong, and it's not one of them that might be the Chesapeake Killer, but both of you together are the Chesapeake Killer. And I find that
I love the
fascinating.
line.
Yeah.
Because the exact line is like, but together you might be, and like just rearrange the words, right? But you might be together. I love it. It's mwah, mwah. I love it.
Hannibal is like, Freddie must be, out of content, basically, if she's resorting to fiction. And Alana points out that, Freddie has no boundaries when it comes to fiction. Like she's not going to tell the truth in this book. And Will says that someone not having boundaries means that someone is either a psychopath or a journalist. But a bump.
What is his hate for journalists? Like, I get it, but also like, this is, I don't know.
In the books,
it's a lot.
I think this may have happened. I don't think it happened in the show, but in the books, Will is like mortally wounded and he's in the hospital. and Freddie Lounds like sneaks in and like takes a picture of him with like, you know, a bag and like all of like these like really intimate, horrible pictures and like puts them in the paper or whatever. So he's got like a hate for journalists across the board, specifically Freddie Lounds. Here, like it does feel a little weird that he's like got this hate on for Freddie so much.
It's
because in a way, like Freddie has been victimized by the Chesapeake Ripper as well. Like the copycat, you know, and Dr. Gideon, like making her participate in the mutilation of Dr. Children, right? Like she was also been a victim in these crimes. So like the idea that he's like calling her a psychopath is kind of wild to me.
And she has also literally helped him.
That too.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, of course, for a quid pro quo, like there was something that he needed to give in return. But I'm just like, if she's good enough. So I used to have this friend, when I was much younger, and she was a bit older, and she used to say, if she's good, this is crude, but like, if she's good enough to fuck, she's good enough to talk about nicely at the dinner table. And I feel like we should all kind of live more by that. And I feel like Will in this moment, like if she was good enough to give you, if she was good enough that you took something from her, then she's good enough to be talked about nicely at the dinner table kind of thing,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah.
So anyway, I don't love this hate on for journalists for Freddie. And I don't even like Freddie, you know? I hate having to defend her.
And like Freddie even calls herself very specifically in this episode like a pariah among journalists. Like she doesn't even like identify herself as a journalist anymore, basically, because she's quote unquote telling the hard truths or whatever. As they're talking about boundaries, Alana brings out or points out that Will and Hannibal, their relationship seems to not have boundaries. Like they are friend and enemy, they're doctor and patient. And Hannibal looks at her and just says, crossing boundaries is different than violating them, which is like a line.
Such a line.
Such a line. Like that's like there's the implication. I know you haven't seen It's Always Sunday, but there's a running joke about the implication, and like there's an implication to that. And Alana like responds in kind of like boundaries are always subject to negotiation, and I almost think this is like
she's right.
These two having a conversation that Will is being left out of, right? Of like,
yes,
like we can talk about what boundaries we do and don't have, basically, like in our sex lives, and Will just has to sit there and watch. I guess he's sitting. You think he set Will at the cuck chair? Is that what's happening here? I don't know if you've seen.
Maybe.
Oh God, I love that TikTok is latched onto the cuck chair. It's so funny to me. So. Have you seen those? Am I just talking nonsense?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm like, you know what? It's fine. Maybe I don't need to know.
There's somebody that put like a video of their hotel room up on TikTok, and it was like, and they started this trend of like, why is this cuck chair here? Because it's just like a single chair that faces the bed in like a hotel room that doesn't really need to exist. And like, I guess it became a trend of people like showing all of the different kind of chairs that were facing the bed. I saw the one the other day that was just a bathtub that was in the same room as the bed. Like, so there was like a cuck bathtub. So yeah. So I wonder if Hannibal set Will in the cuck chair for this one.
Interesting.
They after they talk about, you know, boundaries are always subject to negotiation, and she wonders, you know, kind of out loud where they are with one another, and Will and Hannibal look at each other, and Will just says, you know, we know where we are with each other, like why should anybody else? And like Hannibal is having so much fucking fun. Like this smile on his face is like a genuine joy of like having this like weird psychosexual relationship with both of the people eating at his table that he just cooked for. Like the only way to make this better would be if he had snuck a little human food in this. Like, right? I mean, just it's absolutely incredible how much Hannibal is having.
Yes. And it's also very uncomfortable to watch. I mean, I don't know, but I found it very uncomfortable to watch because it, like, Will Graham in this moment is the girl that Hannibal is telling Alana not to worry about.
Yeah.
I'm just like, we've seen those situations develop, and they're always so uncomfortable when someone is like, oh no, don't worry about this person, blah, 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 blah. And then turns out that maybe they were right.
Definitely worried about that person. Yeah. Hannibal drinks some wine, and he looks down at the glass, and we see his face reflected, and it fades from here to Freddie Lowndes' hotel room with this like long camera shot of it going over the bed, and then finally finding Hannibal in the corner of the room in his murder jammies, obviously waiting for Freddie to get there so that he can murder her.
And that got me wondering if the murder jammies get fogged up when he sweats.
He's probably got like a little exhaust system in there. You know what I'm saying? Like a couple of fans or something just blowing. No, that wouldn't work. That'd get his DNA everywhere. Probably. Yeah, he probably fogs that bad boy up sometimes. Freddie, meanwhile, is at Will Graham's house. Sneaking around, trying to get inside the main house, and she can't. And as she goes around the side, she spies a suspicious shed. She uses her lockpick skills to get in. And as she walks in, she closes the door behind her, and she sees this shadowed shape behind like some plastic that's hanging up. And as she pulls the plastic aside, we see Randall's animal suit, completely bloodied. Just hanging on a chain in the middle of the shed. She immediately begins taking pictures because she's Freddie Lowndes. She's always takes pictures before she calls anybody.
But that's the thing, right? Like it's a callback to that moment where she reaches into her purse and takes out not a phone but a camera.
Yep.
And I'm just like, girl, call someone. You'll have time to take pictures after.
She walks around and she's taking pictures of everything, and she spots a chest freezer, and she tries to open it. This one's locked too, so she has to use a second lockpick. In video games, you can only use a lockpick once. I assume that works in real life too, so I'm just assuming she was carrying an inventory of 3 lockpicks like I always do in fantasy games. So she unlocks this.
Also, never look in the chest freezer when you suspect cannibalism is happening.
First time. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you're not going to waste the meat, right? Like you're gonna vacuum seal it. Maybe you do a little sous vide on that bad boy. We don't know what's going to happen.
Oh my god.
But as she opens the chest freezer and she sees, like some random fish, and then like something looks weird, and she picks up, and we realize it's the bottom of Randall's jaw. So like we saw the top part of his head stretched over the saber tooth, and then here's where Will has stored the bottom part, kept it for whatever reason. There's I don't know if it's a deleted scene or a scene that didn't make it from the script where Hannibal actually asks if he took a trophy from his kill, which was either cut out or that's not even filmed. But I thought that was kind of interesting that he maybe took this as a trophy, because that's what serial killers do a lot of the time.
Do we know if Hannibal takes trophies apart from the meat?
Just the meat. We don't know yet. That he eats
just
them.
The
That's how he takes them with him forever, I guess. So. Like that dude said, if I eat you, like maybe I've, done all of those murders you've done are mine too. Like maybe that's what Hannibal kind of thinks as well. She's terrified, so she slams the freezer door closed, and as she does, she sees Will, and he quickly like kind of locks or closes the door behind her, pulls a gun, and is like, I can't let you go, Freddie, not until you've heard what I've had to say.
And this is like that moment is exactly what we saw happening with Beverly, right? Between Hannibal and Beverly, right? Like where he's there behind her, or like it's a surprise, and then like, oh, whatever. And it's just, I'm so amazed at the difference between like the way that, especially me, I'll speak for myself, but the way that I see Freddie and the way that I see other victims of Hannibal's. And I think the difference is that up until now, like I liked Beverly and I disliked Freddie, right? Because I'm like, yeah, Will, get her, but I'm also like, oh my god, no, like you should not be rooting for anybody to take a life at this point.
Yeah, it's like
Mason is fine. You can kill Mason, but maybe not Freddie.
Maybe not Freddie. And this is kind of rough, right? Like this is. So he's trying to, get her to hand him the gun. She shoots at him and misses, and then tries to run away. And he like grabs her hair and is like slamming her against the wall. So she drops the gun, but she still gets away. She like sprays pepper spray in his face. Like this is the kind of like ruthless violence.
She's fighting for her life.
Yeah. We have, the show hasn't actually really shown us this kind of thing before. Like, the closest we got was the muralist hunting down the guy that like pulled himself out of it, right? But even that, like, they weren't like fighting each other. Like, it was just a kind of a chase scene. This is like him violently beating her to be able to into submission, right? So he can do something to her. And it's the kind of thing that, like, I don't think we expected from Will at all. Like, you brought up the idea that early in the episode of, like, is he working with Jack? Is he working with Hannibal? You're leaning more towards the fact that he's becoming what Hannibal wants him to become. But, like, this feels like a step in that direction that we just, like, I didn't realize he was ready to take, right? Like, this kind of violence towards, this direct violence towards women. I just did not see that happening.
Well, because that's the thing. Like, I've been, like, jokingly and not so jokingly, kind of like a Freddy ends up dead truther for a while now. And I was kind of excited to see it happen. But to see it happen in that much detail was actually quite unpleasant for me. Like, there was something really, really terrifying, especially as somebody who lives in the body of a woman, to see a woman, like, she shoots him, she pepper sprays him, she gets in her car, she locks the doors, she's on the phone with the literal FBI, she is in broad daylight, she's screaming, and yet she ends up dead anyway. Like, there's something so terrifying about that. Because, we're always, because I made a joke earlier about how, like, she should have called the police earlier and then maybe she would have, like, been fine. But the reality is that, like, that's kind of just victim blaming. That is victim blaming, actually. Like, she shouldn't have been murdered.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Like, if we're going there, she just shouldn't have been murdered. And we're always telling, especially with true crime and whatnot, we're always telling, especially straight women, cis straight women, like, how the things that you can do in order to protect yourself from an attack. And here, technically, Freddy did everything right, and she still winds up dead. And that is terrifying.
And I think it's worth noting, too, like, the violence of which he gets pulled out of her car. Like, we see him, like, break the window with a tire iron or something, and then literally dragging her by the hair outside of the car. Like, it's a violence that we have not previously really seen from Will outside of his, like, empathic visions of serial killers doing the work, right? So, but this is very directly Will, and cutting to this directly to, like, as she's screaming, we go to Jack's office. She was calling Jack, and she left this voicemail on his phone of her screaming, and of course they do the work, and they can't find Freddy. Her cell phone was traced to Wolf Trap. They've got video of her at a local gas station. And Will says, well, she was supposed to show up for an interview, but didn't. And then kind of says, like, I live in the middle of nowhere. Like, if she had enemies that wanted to take her, like, that would be a good place to do it. Right. And man, like, you have never seen somebody look at somebody like askew, like Alana is doing to Will at this exact moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, Alana is suspicious. So is Jack, though. Jack is like, what is going on here?
Yeah, something strange is happening. And then we get to the final scene of the show.
Oh my God.
Where Will is in Hannibal's kitchen, and he brings out a slim, parchment paper wrapped piece of meat, and says that he is providing the ingredients so that Hannibal can tell him what to do with it. And Hannibal opens it up and determines that it was that it's veal, and as he smells, he said it's a veal of pork. And Will says she was a slim and delicate pig. And one of the most gruesome jokes of the entire series, Hannibal hands him a knife and says, "You slice the ginger." And I think this is one of the funniest goddamn jokes of all time. Like, this is one of my all-time faves. It's so fucking dark. It's a dark chuckle, I know, but goddamn, "You slice the ginger" is so fucking hilarious.
I screamed when I heard it. I
It's so
actually
good.
screamed.
It's so good.
I was like, no, he did not. He did. He absolutely did.
They obviously cook together, which doesn't have to be romantic, but I think is in a lot of cases.
Well, yeah.
And we don't really see that. All we see is the final plate, which of course is beautiful because it's Hannibal. And then there's these really, really close shot scenes of them very carefully picking up pieces of meat off the plate with their fork and putting them in their mouths and chewing slowly and staring at one another.
And it's shot and edited basically very similarly to the sex scene earlier,
Yes.
which I think is just so shameless. I love it. I love it. And it's also the fact that Hannibal is like, we'll make it together, we'll do it together kind of thing. Like referring to the meal, of course, right? Get your dirty minds out of the gutter. But it's also evocative of cooking together with a glass of wine and then sharing the meal and then going to bed together. Like this is a date. This is a meaty, horny date.
Yes.
Is what we're seeing.
Absolutely.
In this moment.
Like it is possible to share a meal with the person in a platonic way. There's nothing about this meal that is platonic whatsoever. Like at the moment where like you're watching your partner slowly chew their food and like you're staring them directly in the eye, like you're just. This is not like this is as far away from platonic. It's the light of the star won't reach us. Won't reach platonic.
The light of platonic won't reach them for 1,000 years.
1,000 million
That's
years.
how far they are.
Hannibal says that this meat is bracing, and Will says that his palate is not as good as Hannibal's. Hannibal says, despite cruelty reasons, it's better for an animal to be stress-free at the time of its slaughter. And he says this animal tastes frightened, which when Will asks, he says that they taste acidic.
Which is interesting because, again, acidic, citrus, Naka-Choko, like it's actually really interesting. I love it.
Will says,
I love what they did.
I love Will's line here. The meat is bitter about being dead. And Hannibal looks at him and like, for maybe the first time, I think reveals a little bit more of himself, right? Like pulls that veil aside when he looks at Will. Like he knows what he's eating. Like his palate is smart enough to know, is delicate enough to know that he's eating human. He's done it before. And like, I think this is the first time that he even comes close to confessing anything to Will or to even admitting to what he has done in the past when he says, this is not pork. And Will kind of closes his eyes and says, this is long pig. And
I screamed again.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, long pig is a euphemism for human meat. Like that's just kind of I forget where it comes from, but probably like a plane crash somewhere or like something on the Oregon Trail. I don't really remember, but it's an old timey way to refer to human meat.
Right.
And as they both chew the meat, like they stare in each other's eyes, and you can see that the Hannibal, like this understanding gives him a lot of pleasure, like knowing that Will brought this to him.
I am now understanding so much more about our season 1 song, by the way. I love it. And there's no more shame in that moment, right? Like on one level, Will and Hannibal are now basically openly talking about cannibalism together. And on another level, the show is now openly talking about a sexual relationship between Will and Hannibal. And I'm just like, whoa, it's like the veil, the human veil, or like the veil of propriety is gone, right? And I want to be clear, not that homosexuality is improper, but like that's kind of what's implied in this in this context, right?
Well, you've got two, quote unquote, like men of the world, right? Like, and they're, I think our default is to assume that everybody is heterosexual, right? Like, I think that's what everybody does, for better or for worse. And like, again, talking about shame, like having a desire for a man like Will Graham specifically is probably quote unquote shameful, because that was the environment that he was raised in. To think that, being gay is bad or wrong or whatever, which of course it's not. But also like this ability to share a meal of human meat, and for them both to acknowledge that that's what it is, and to acknowledge like kind of where it came from at the same time. Like that's the like an extremely intimate thing, right? Like that's something that
I was gonna say, like, it's intimate.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's again, going back to like confessing to your partner that you like something, like this is, and then being accepted for it, like that feeling of joy of like of having somebody that's just like, yeah, man, that's fine, that's totally cool. Why are you so worried about this? Yeah, we eat human meat over here all the time, man. Come on, that's all good. So yeah, I think this is definitely like a moment of where the veil is pulled, where they're both losing shame. Will says to Hannibal that he can not be reduced to a set of influences. He's saying he's given up good and evil for behaviorism. And Hannibal says, well, then that means you can't say that I'm good or evil. And Will says, well, you're destructive, which is the same thing. And Hannibal says, well, storms are destructive, but they're not evil. They're called acts of God. And he looks at Will and says, is this meal an act of God, Will? And the implication of just that sentence of like, because again, Will provided the ingredients, right? So this meal is technically like on Will. Like Will brought the food, he brought the meat. Like, so if being destructive is being evil, and if God is destructive, if being destructive is an act of God, is Will playing God here? And he says this very playfully to Will, because he's like manipulating Will again, because we all know that Hannibal likes to play God. So the idea that this emerging thing from the cocoon is also wanting to play God, I think is very fascinating and humorous to Hannibal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he kind of loves it. He's like, oh, this is interesting. I wasn't quite expecting that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, again, like playful and maybe even a little bit condescending, because he knows like he's got so much more experience doing this than Will does. They both take another.
Well, it's also that idea. Do you remember when I said, because I'm so podcast amnesia is real, but I do remember at one point saying that I think that Will's MO is going to include some kind of like what he thinks is retributive justice, right? And again, like that idea of him acting as God, as like the great punisher of the wicked, right? I just,
And
sorry.
No, you're fine. That's it's a valid point. They take a bite, and they stare at each other. The camera goes back and forth, and eventually we see Will, and then it fades into Hannibal's face as his eyes close, and then it fades to black, and that's the end of the episode.
That last image of like the faces kind of like becoming one. How do you interpret it? Is it like Will is becoming Hannibal, or is it that Hannibal and Will are two parts of a whole, or like Bedelia said, like they deserve each other?
Yeah, to me it reads as connection. It reads as I've shown a piece of myself to you. You've accepted it, and that has made us closer. That has made the bond that we have much more bigger, I guess. I don't know how you describe bonds, but to me, it's we have connected in a very intimate way, right? And so we're now like our thoughts are overlapping, and now we're finishing each other's sandwiches, to make a really bad Arrested Development joke. But it just shows the closeness that they have achieved from dropping a little bit of their shame and dropping. Telling truths about themselves, for allowing the other one to know truths. This is almost a confession of Will to Hannibal, and it feels like almost a confession of Hannibal to Will too. Because again, Hannibal has never said that he's never out loud said that he's done anything to Will. Like it's all assumption based. And the thing that Will asked him to do when they started this was not lie to him. He can accept lies by omission, and that's what Hannibal has been doing. It's just anytime Will comes up with a question, he just sidesteps it. And this is the first time that he's ever shown Will of any inclination that he could possibly have done the things that Will thinks he has done. Yeah. And that's the episode. And that's
that must be. Oh my God. Okay, because I feel like that must be really scary for Hannibal, right? Because I know that, again, thinking back to Bedelia, I want to see more Bedelia, because I keep thinking about the stuff that she said in earlier episodes, where she's like, it's really scary to show your true self to other people, and Hannibal is allowing that to happen. And we don't quite know yet which way Will is going to go, right? If he's going to side with Hannibal in the end, or if he's going to side with Jack. And I'm like, oh, but now you've let him see you.
I'm curious.
Oh my God, Hannibal is going to be devastated if Will doesn't pick him. He's going to be like Meredith Grey, pick me, choose me, love me.
Do you?
Oh my God, imagine Hannibal as a pick me girl.
Do you think That's fucking hysterical. Yeah, that's
Sorry.
That's right up there with
Go
Pillow
ahead.
Princess Scully.
Yes.
That we did.
No, don't say that on here. You're gonna get
I
so
know.
much flack for it again.
We need Hannibal as a pick me girl in fan art as soon as possible.
I agree.
I'm curious. So you keep coming back to that question of like whether or not Will is, like somehow secretly doing this for Jack, or if he's just like kind of enthralled by Hannibal completely.
Right.
Having done the things that he has done, like, do you think that there's any way that Jack would accept him back? Like, even if Will was like, no, I was doing this I was actually doing this so I could get evidence. Like you killed a woman, like you killed a boy, like you killed a man, and then you killed a woman, and then you mutilated his body and put it on display in public, and then like who knows? And you apparently ate part of the woman that you killed. Like, there's no way. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you think Jack is willing to accept that kind of crime? I guess that kind of behavior from Will.
Well, so okay. Speaking reality-wise, should a member of the FBI accept that someone under their care goes undercover and eats people and kills people? I would hope not.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I hope the answer to that is no, IRL. At the same time, we've seen Jack still eats the food that Hannibal is serving him, kind of knowing full well what it is.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess my answer is like, I hope not. But also, like, Jack has been kind of like, again, speaking about boundaries, has been really bad at having boundaries in his work and in his personal life. And I'm just like, I don't know, man, about Jack. He's a special guy.
He's a special kind of FBI agent, that's for sure.
Plus, to be honest, I don't even know if he lives past season 2. So I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Because I mean, well, he looks pretty close to death in episode 1, right?
Looks pretty dead. Looks pretty bad.
A knife wound to the throat isn't very good.
That's always a bad sign, to be honest with you.
I'm also looking forward to Bedelia. It's just as a very small spoiler, she will be back this season. So you'll see her before the end of the season. Yeah, just to get you kind of excited.
I always had an inkling that she came back after, because I kind of have a feeling that maybe he's going to go after her.
Because he tried, right? Like he just like he tried with Freddy, like he tried to kill her.
Right. Because if in his eyes Will betrays him, she's going to be the only person left who knows him. And now that he's had a taste of that connection, he's going to want more, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so now I'm just like, I feel like he's going to go after her in one way or another. So I had an inkling that she was going to come back for season 3, but I did not know that she's coming back for season 2. I'm so excited about it. Oh my god, I love her. And plus she's presenting at the SAG Awards tonight with David Duchovny, which there might be an announcement, by the way, because Netflix is tweeting about it.
Please don't make my podcast any longer, Gillian Anderson.
I'm so sorry.
We're only on season 3.
We've
got 5 years left to podcast about the X-Files. I don't need extra, I promise. With that, do you want to go to the haiku section?
Yes, let's go do the haikus.
How about you first this week?
All right. So I DM'd you last night. I'm like, my haiku is borderline pornographic.
It's fine.
I'm like, I'm sorry. But yeah, so I can taste you so sweet, sour, warm on my tongue. What shame to waste it.
I like how you slipped the theme in there too. Nice work.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you. All right, let's hear yours.
I wrote, I am not with you, one flesh divided by space. Still, you are inside.
I am, right now in this moment, I am the Screaming Begins Again possum meme.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like every time we finish talking about one of these episodes, like, I'm just screaming into the void because it's just so good.
I was channeling a little bit of, I've mentioned the Lock Tomb series a couple of times, and they have a thing in there called One Flesh, One End.
Ooh.
So I was kind of channeling my inner the main character is named Gideon. Nothing like the Hannibal Gideon, but like I was channeling my inner Gideon there. So,
Cool.
just like, maybe Hannibal and Will are going through, as they literally merge into one person at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Everyone, thank you so much for listening. We so much appreciate it. We get so many comments on Spotify, like the day that the podcast comes out. And that's so, you don't know how like just amazing that is to me. Like just just knowing that people are waiting, downloading, and immediately wanting to listen is just so fantastic. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And honestly, also thank you for all of your incredible comments on the theme, the new theme for season 2, and the video. Like it's been so great because like this was such a saga to get together, and it's I don't know, it's just so lovely to see that people actually love it. Like
Absolutely.
It's really wonderful.
We appreciate everybody like sharing the podcast with their friends and things like that. Like, shout out to me just literally DMing X-Files fan accounts and convincing them to watch Hannibal. When you get to this episode, like that just happened yesterday, but like it's going to be like months before you hear this episode, which is hilarious.
Unless they're binging.
Unless they're binging. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, just thank you so much. All of our links are in the show notes. Again, thank you to all of the people that have helped with the music, specifically Jake Lionheart for the incidental music. Stay, if you haven't, we have outtakes. If that's something that you normally skip, like skip the outtakes, but then go to the outro song, because Jake did such an amazing job on the outro song after the credits that I'm just in love with it. So go listen to that so you can have a head bopping session.
Yeah, there you go.
And yeah, we'll be back next week with another delicious meal. So bon appetit.
Bon appetit, everybody. I just realized that I get to watch the next episode.
I was about to say, do you have time today? Or
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go on the couch and just like veg out. I think I'm gonna have some cookies also because that feels good about now.
When I went to go get some water, Autumn had made a lemon bundt cake, so I'm about to go get a slice.
That sounds lovely. Oh, hello.
Oh, hey! I was just about to text you that I was ready. So
I was like, okay, so I'll get ready and we'll see, like if he's there or not. And I'm like, oh, he's there.
I've been there long enough for me to log into the website and then switch over to Discord to DM you that I was ready. So you were right on time.
Perfect. Instead of coffee today,
you're sipping on some soup, huh?
Oh, yes, I am.
You seem like you feel a lot better. You sound like you feel a little better.
Yeah, so I felt, actually, hold on, I forgot that I have to record this because apparently we are recording a podcast and not just like
just catching up
one another. But yeah, like I woke up this morning and I didn't feel great, but I still felt so much better than I did yesterday morning. Yesterday morning was just so awful. I'm really glad that you were like, girl, no.
Yeah, we don't need to speak for 2.5 hours.
Well, the thing is, like, when you're really not feeling well, like somebody else has to make the calls sometimes because you're just like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll do it.
I'll power through. Yeah,
I'll power through. Yeah, I'll keep my head down and power through. But no.
Autumn keeps me sane with this stuff because, just like with all of the side effects and everything that I'm experiencing, but I'm still like, I'll try to get up and do stuff. And she's like, just go sit down like and rest. Like just, that is what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm like, no, it's not. I have to vacuum the hallway or some bullshit. Like I'm, you get on one about stuff. So.
Listen, even if the hallway does not get vacuumed today, you know what I mean? Like it's fine. My mom actually came over and cleaned my apartment yesterday, which she has never done.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh my God. And she's like, yeah, I can see you're not feeling well. And I'm like, how sick do I look for you to be doing?
What do I normally look like? And why do you think it's this bad right now?
I'm like, should I? Like, I don't know. I'm worried.
That's so funny. My sister cleaned houses for a living for a while. And so when she's over, like the day that she stayed with me when I was supposed to get chemo, and we didn't. But I came home feeling like shit, and she was just like randomly like picking up stuff and cleaning it and sorting it. And she's like, "You don't have enough like dirty dishes for me. Like we need to cook something so I can wash some more dishes. Like I'm in the zone right now." Like she puts her little headphones on. She listens to her little fantasy stories, and she's just cleaning. So it's very funny to me.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's the thing. Like when you get in the groove, it's like easy. And that's the thing. Like she cleaned my bathroom, she cleaned my kitchen, she took out the garbage, and I was just like, "Oh my God, mother, what is happening?"
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This rules.
Exactly. I was like, "Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it, even though I don't look like it right now."
Poor thing. It sucks being sick, though. It really does. It's not the best
really
thing. We got something. I think me and Autumn both got some version of COVID at some point, and like she had it first, and then was down for several days, and then I got it, and I was like, you know, men are much worse at pain and colds and being sick than women are. Like just in general, not to make things like gender normative, but like if I get sick, like I'm crying and like, oh my God, I'm gonna be like this forever. And Autumn, meanwhile, is like, you know, saddling a horse and taking Tylenol or some shit. Like, it's crazy.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm used to just powering through for a lot of reasons, right? But like, I'm the only adult who is responsible in my house, right? Like, so I need to be on all the time. And yeah, it happens very rarely that I can't be. And this was one of those times where yesterday I was just like, nope.
It's got to feel pretty good that 11-year-old is probably getting to the age where like you can trust him to take care of himself a little bit, though. Like even if you're sick, like he sounds like a good kid, but like, you know, kids are gonna be kids. But also like at a certain point you kind of mature enough where you can be like, okay, I know you're not going to, you know, ramshackle the house while I'm gone, or you know, drink a bunch of juice packets and run around like a crazy person or something. So
no, for sure. And that's the thing, like he's always been fairly responsible, but it's true that lately, like I trust him more around stuff because I'm like, okay, like I know that you have the capacity for making good decisions. Whether or not you make those good decisions all the time is a whole other discussion. But that's, you know, that's just children, I suppose.
Yeah, I feel like that's just part of growing up, right? Like you got to touch the burner once to realize it's hot. And it's what you do with that information after the fact that is important. So
yeah, exactly. Like that was exactly what happened this morning. That I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you for real?" Oh yeah. Okay. So I bought his one of his favorite breakfasts is like Frosted Flakes. So I always make sure that there's Frosted Flakes in the house.
Sure.
And I bought more Frosted Flakes because I knew we were kind of running low, but not really. But I was like, if I'm not feeling well this week to go buy some, then at least he'll have some, right? And this morning he's like, oh, I'll have breakfast. And he goes to open the new box of Frosted Flakes. And I'm like, did you finish all the Frosted Flakes? And he's like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean you don't know? And he's like, no, but I want some from the new box.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sir.
These are fresh. I don't want that old stuff.
Exactly. I was like, sir, please. No.
I am guilty of doing that when it comes to chips. Because like if you get to like the last like 1/5 of a Wavy Lay's bag, like it's just pieces. Like there's no more good chips in there. But I don't know that I would do it necessarily for cereal unless it was just like I'm just a dummy today, right? Like I accidentally did it. So.
But that's the thing. I think it's more that like, I think children in general, but like there's this like a lack of reflection before doing things, right? Which is normal for children that age, but it's just like, think.
Yeah.
Think.
Roll out the consequences of what you're doing. Like
yes, exactly.
Think 3 steps ahead for me, please. Like
yeah. Exactly. And he does after. He's like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess I should have taken that. He's like, oh, yeah, well, that makes a lot more sense. I'm like, I know.
Okay. Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
I know, that makes a lot more sense.
He's going to be a good kid. He's a good kid, it sounds like.
Yeah. He's very sweet. He's very sweet. I like him, you know. Wouldn't give him back.
I know he's like, and we don't actually have to talk about this if this is too personal to put on a podcast, but like I know he's aware of you doing podcast, like and I'm sure that he watches YouTube, so he kind of understands what a podcast is. But is he ever like, what are you talking about? Like, does he ever ask about Supernatural or the Pirate Show or Hannibal or anything like that? Like, does he ask like, what are you doing? Because I'm just kind of curious. Like, if I saw my mom doing this, I'd be like, what is she doing over there? I gotta get into that. Or I would be at a certain age like, that is the lamest shit I've ever seen. I can't possibly be a part of it.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen at some point, just because he's always seen me do it, right? And so he's going to be like, oh no, anything that my mother does must be awful.
Yes.
And so I think that that's what it's going to be. But he did ask me like what I talk about on podcasts, and I told him I talk about TV shows. And it's like, oh, that's cool. And that's literally the only question that he has ever asked me.
Okay. Well, that's good.
And I was like, okay.
I casually mentioned that I did podcast in a recent doctor's appointment, and the woman that was seeing me, and I always say like, I know that's a weird thing or whatever. Like I try to be kind of dismissive about it, and she's like, "Oh no, it's not weird. Like it's just unusual that like as everybody listens to them, but like I've never met anybody that makes them." And I was like, "Oh, cool. That's an interesting perspective." Yeah. And then of course it was
an
like,
interesting perspective.
"What do you podcast about?" And I'm like, I think every time I've been asked that question, I think like everybody expects me to say true crime, and I'm like TV shows and comic books, like.
There you go. I feel like that's enough. I don't need to tell more, TV shows. I podcast about TV shows and people are like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah. Usually that's enough. Although, like when people find out, like some of my like work colleagues found out I did an X-Men podcast. So now like instead of just being like, "Hey Jeremy, hey so-and-so," and like doing our work conversation and it's, "Oh man, I heard what you said about Gambit." And I'm like, I don't want to talk to this between my 9 to 5, bro. Like this is not and it's fine. It's totally fine. It's just conversation.
Yeah,
but
of course.
it's just very funny. People are getting kind of into it.
Yeah, there you go. It's the awkward of like, it's I think you described it well, like that need or that wants to be perceived, but like that fear of being perceived.
Yeah, it's being a podcaster is super weird because
exactly
like you want the downloads, you want the thing to spread, but also you don't want anybody to talk to you about it ever. Like you just don't, not like in person. I mean, like I think that's on the internet is fine.
And it's also like, I don't know about you, but it's something that like I realized lately of like how much of myself is out there. Yeah.
I have that thought all the time. Like I think about it. I think I've mentioned casually before that like I used to do a gaming podcast with a group of guys, and one of them turned out to be like I guess like a minor sex pest. Like I don't know where the scale is, but like basically he harassed a woman that was a mutual friend of mine and a bunch of other people, and kind of lied about it to me. And we continued to do the podcast because I thought I was like being a helpful bro or whatever. Like, cause he was DMing me like, "I don't know what I did wrong." Like, and I was trying to like genuinely help him through what I thought was something that did not happen at all. Like from the way he had described it. Anyway, long story short, like that podcast is off the internet now. Like I took it completely off the internet because I don't know. Like I just, I don't, it's a weird situation because we didn't talk about any of that stuff on that podcast. All we talked about was video games, but at the same time, like I don't want my name associated with that dude. And I think about it all the time in terms of like the outtakes that we've done and like the very casual things I've said about family and friends that could be easily misinterpreted or pulled out of context if like people I know started listening to them. And it's just odd. Luckily, like two of my sisters, I think maybe even all of my sisters have tried and have all told me like, "No, we don't like listening to these. This is not what we want to do."
Good.
But I'm like, good. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, I don't want you to. So
yeah, same. And that's why like I think lately I've been more protective of certain things where I'm just like, I don't think I need to talk about this, like but like this information about me or this doesn't need to be out there for people to consume as content. And I kind of go back to what Elena Hoffman said about her personal life, that like some things she doesn't talk about, not because they're a secret, but because they're sacred. And I know that that's something that Misha Collins also talks about a lot.
Absolutely.
By the way, Castiel in long-running show Supernatural, for anybody who might not know. I'm such a nerd.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. We're all there with you. So.
But yeah, this idea that like there are some parts of yourself that are sacred, and I'm like kind of, I guess, in the process of figuring out what those are.
Yeah. It goes back to like the very first time I did a podcast was with my friends Gary and Cole on their podcast about Dark Souls, if you can imagine. And like there was a question, and even like that was like my first time guesting somewhere, but even like when I started, like I was an official host of a podcast or whatever, there was a question of like, should I just go by my online name? Like, am I going to say not EC every time I like join a podcast, or should I just be like Jeremy Greer? And I don't know, like it's now I've been Jeremy Greer for so long that it's like pretty easy to find out shit on the internet. The other day, I was in a rap thread And somebody posted like people just were talking like the dumbest thing, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Like, instead listen to this new album by these guys. And it's a new like rap duo that I found. Like, they have less than like 200 followers on Spotify. Like, they're underground hip hop. And then I got accused of being the person. Like, I was posting in the thread as self-promotion or something. Like, I'm not going to listen to your mixtape, bro. And I'm like, I promise you it's not me. Like, I'm so white and I definitely cannot rap like these dudes. Like, and I wanted to say, like, just look on the internet. Like, you can find me not rapping everywhere. It's definitely not me.
You can find me not rapping everywhere. It's probably the best thing I've ever heard you say.
But it, like, 2 people posted like, we're not listening to your mixtape, bro. And like, I had to like have a moment of like, do I want to get into an argument about this? Because I feel like if I deny it more, it's going to make me seem like I am actually the person. But I was like, guys, it's not me, man. I'm sorry. Just trying to link a group that I like a lot. So
you're like, well, okay, no worries, it's all good. That's really funny.
Autumn was watching some true crime documentaries. I guess me and Autumn were watching them. I was we were like, it's on in the background or whatever. And first off, I had forgotten that Amazon Prime has commercials now. So like, she started a video and there was 3 minutes of commercials, and I'm like, well, I thought we paid for this. Like, what are we doing?
So you're paying, but if you want ad free, you have to pay an extra, like, what, $3 a month or something?
Yeah, and I don't use that service enough to really justify that, especially because I can do what I did, which is just download the entire series for her, so she didn't have to put up with commercials anymore. But it was a documentary about Ted Bundy, specifically focusing on like his girlfriend, his like living girlfriend, who had never ever done anything before, right? So like, this was like the big hook on this is, we've got, a new insight on Ted Bundy because we have this woman's going to be doing interviews, and her daughter who grew up with Ted Bundy is also going to be doing interviews.
Wow.
And it was, it's the first episode. She's watching the second episode now. I don't care enough about it to like, I don't keep up with like true crime stuff. So it's like, if it's on in the background, fine. But I was laughing because, like, at one point it just takes a wild diversion and talks about the deep throat controversy with the Nixon administration. No. And then for like a while it was just interviewing students from the University of Washington talking about how great the University of Washington was. And then like went through a whole thing about like, at that time, about women's rights and the protests at the Kent State and all this other stuff. And I'm like, we are getting a lot of extra history about the world and not Ted Bundy on this Ted Bundy documentary. Like, it's 5 episodes long. Y'all couldn't trim this up a little bit? Like, I'm here for the I'm sure most people are there for the Ted Bundy guy, right? Like, not the I don't know. The documentaries are weird nowadays.
I mean, they are, but I'm just kind of thinking like, because I'm just thinking about the people who might not know about this stuff, right? Like, because it's too close in history to be taught in schools. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's also like far enough away that the younger generation might not know about it.
That's a good point. Like, I guess like if you're coming up and you're in your early 20s or whatever, like you may not have heard about the shooting in Kent State in school. Like, this may be your first exposure to it, like watching something like this. I guess you're right on that. And I guess it does provide context to like the environment where he started killing or whatever it is. Like, and I get it. I was just like watching this. I'm going, man, this is like 10 minutes of not Ted Bundy. And you've got Ted Bundy displayed prominently on the poster. That's all I'm saying. if I had to wait, like, I don't know, how long before, when you start Jurassic Park, how long is it before you see a dinosaur?
Do you know that I've never seen Jurassic Park?
I swear. I hate when people are like, I can't believe you've seen X, Y, or Z, because people have their own experiences with media and we all grow up differently in different households and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like the other day, Autumn told me that she hadn't seen, it was something, I want to say it was like The Godfather or something. And I was like, how did you not?
I've never seen The Godfather.
Which is fine. That's not anything to be ashamed of. Like, people watch different media.
I'm not ashamed of it.
I mean, like,
you seem a little bothered though.
I'm not bothered. It's just Jurassic Park, I think, bothers me more than The Godfather, to be honest with you. Like, The Godfather is a movie that a lot of bros really like, and I think it's a good movie, but like, I can totally understand like not caring about it. Jurassic Park though, like that movie is entertainment for every single person on the planet. I don't care who you are.
I think it came out when I was like young enough for it to be something that my mom would not have wanted me to see. And then like I grew up and it was like, oh, well, that's an old movie at that point, right? And so I just never watched it. Until recently, I hadn't seen Ghostbusters.
1993 is when Jurassic Park came out.
Yeah, so I would have been 5 years old. Yeah, there you go.
And I was 13, so it hit me perfectly. We watched it not long ago, like a couple of years back, and it's remarkable how well the CGI holds up.
Really?
Yeah. Like I think it looks better than like a lot of modern Marvel stuff, to be honest with you. Like,
oh my god,
it's so
Jeremy.
much more well done. It seems like
So I think I may have talked about this with you. I don't remember, but not too long ago we were watching a Marvel movie. I can't remember which one, with my 11-year-old, and he was like, "Oh wow, the CGI is so good," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's not bad." And he's like, "I can't believe they were so good for an old movie."
How old
and
is
I'm like,
the movie came out in like 2020?
Well, it was I think like 2016 or something, and I'm like, child, and he's like, "Well, that's almost 10 years ago," and I'm like,
no, it's not. 2016 was yesterday, dog. I hate to tell you this, but that was literally yesterday. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, but there you go. I think that's also why I'm like not so bothered by the whole like contextualizing the Ted Bundy era within like the actual historical era of it, because it's like it didn't really make sense to people at the time, right?
Yeah,
like because true. I think it's very rare that something like that had been talked about or seen, right?
And I kind of think what they were going to do, and again, I didn't watch the whole thing. I think it was 5 episodes. Yeah. I watched part of the first one with like, my phone in my lap or whatever. But I'm assuming what they were going to try to contrast with the, or create a contrast of like the women's freedom movement and they finally getting rights and control over their bodies and all this other stuff, with like all of a sudden this terrorism that's happening with this killer who's preying on young women from this particular campus.
Exactly. So, it is because you are free that you are being preyed upon.
Yeah, some bullshit like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But who knows? We'll see. I'll ask Adam about it later and report back. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear, because it's true. I remember reading a little bit about Ted Bundy at one point, and then seeing that like his girlfriend had never really wanted to talk about him, which honestly, like, I get it. Yeah. I don't think I would ever want to talk about.
They had
ever.
An interview with the first woman that he ever attacked. That was and then one of the few people that like survived, and she was also like the interviewer was like, "You've never talked about this on film, like why not? Like, why haven't you come out and talked about it?" She's like, I didn't want that to be my life. Like, I wanted my own life to live. Like, I didn't want it to be that girl. I wanted to do other stuff. So totally understand it.
It really comes back to what we were saying earlier about like how much of yourself is out there. And in the case of this person, that's the only thing that would have ever been out there about her. And so everybody who would interact with her would have that in their minds. Like, that's what you become about. You become a circus animal almost.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is a bummer. Like, especially
it's a bummer.
It's a bummer. Sure. Yeah, it's but like, modern media in general is gonna play that part up. Like, that's the most titillating part of your story. Like, it's not the story about the victims or anything. It's just the serial killer stuff. I don't know, true crime stuff is always very hit or miss for me anyway. Yeah.
I think there's a way of talking about it. I just think that a lot of the ways that people do talk about it is not the way that I would want to. So yeah, I try to stay away from it now.
I can't say too much bad because we got a lot of Monster of the Week listeners via the Murderinos Facebook page. Like,
oh yeah,
somebody was like, "Hey, do you like Supernatural?" And I want to say Autumn, like, the rare time that she put something on the internet, was like, "Oh yeah, my husband does a podcast about Supernatural," and like a series of people like, "Oh, I'm going to check that out. I'm going to check that. I'm going to check." Like we got like a big like. I remember seeing that on Facebook and going like, "Whoa, this is weird." Like, I feel like our mutual friend Katie that was just on the podcast found out about us that way. So
no way.
I think so. I might be misremembering. Katie will definitely listen to this and correct me if I'm wrong. So
I hope so, because I want to know now.
Yeah, have fun for me not remembering this in 10 weeks. So
she's going to be like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly how I found you guys," and we're both going to be like, "What?
What the fuck are you talking about?"
What are you saying, Katie? By the time this comes out, actually, we will have been to Boston and we will have met in person.
Oh, that's so crazy. Yeah. We had a great time. We enjoyed meeting everybody fantastic. So much. Yes, thank you for coming out and talking to us. Thank you for shaking my hand so much. That's wild. That's so exciting.
It's so wild. Yeah, I know.
Poor Autumn, like she got a work trip dumped on her. So we had booked plane tickets to go, obviously together to Boston. And she had to cancel hers because she's got to go to, I think, Chicago or something. So she's going to be like flying into Boston, like separately from me. And then I think like we were planning on flying out Monday because we were staying Sunday night. I think she has to fly somewhere else again. Like she's not going to be home for like a week and a half. So
that sucks.
it's going to be weird, but that's okay. That's okay.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to, I'm very much looking back and fondly remembering meeting the both of you. Yeah, exactly.
On this Easter Sunday that you're listening to this, I don't know what Easter is.
Yes. I don't know when Easter is either, frankly.
You want to do the podcast?
I would love to do the podcast. I do need a soup break first.
Okay, hit it.
Just going to go grab some more soup. Hello.
Hello.
It's also that like I'm not hungry at all, so like the thought of food is kind of gross at the moment.
Sure.
And so like soup and tea have been sustaining me for the past couple of days.
Soup is good for that. I find. Like you can just like even if you don't, because I struggle with appetite quite a bit sometimes, and like of course I'm so basic when it comes to soup. Like you can literally just warm up cream of chicken, and that'll be perfect for me. Like I don't need anything else in it. Chicken and noodles, get back, aristocrat. Like get out of here.
That's literally what I'm having right now.
Perfect, bougie.
It's so good. It's the stuff in the packet that you can like just whisk in.
If it has noodles, it's bougie.
Fancy.
It's so bougie.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I have like homemade chicken noodle soup in the freezer, but I'm not even feeling that right now. I need the packet stuff. Okay. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool.
And the conclusion that I've drawn is that you are